Hello and welcome to the From the Spirit World podcast, a legendary Avatar, The Last Airbender, and The Legend of Korra podcast for OverlyAnimated.com. This is the From the Spirit World rewatch, the definitive Avatar fans rewatch from the biggest Avatar fans you know. We'll be reflecting on Avatar and Korra almost 20 years later after being huge fans of the shows while they originally aired. I'm your host, Dylan, and today I'm joined by Delaney.
Hey all.
And Allie.
Hello.
We have gotten to episodes 7, 8, and 9 of season 2 in our book 2 portion of our Avatar rewatch here. Zuko Alone, The Chase, and Bitter Work. Some good stuff to get into on
Classics.
this week. All classics. Okay.
Oh.
Every Avatar episode's a classic in its own right. Let's say. But a lot of more Toph discussion coming. Probably some Azula, Zuko stuff.
There she is.
Yeah.
It's right there.
On the we are. Let's do the video portion of the. We are on video at youtube.com/overlyanimated. Delaney's got a top shirt.
I didn't realize that's what that was.
But
Dylan got it for me for my birthday.
Nice.
But it's fine if you're just listening on audio only.
Yeah,
but youtube.com/overlyanimated
off
for the
in
video. You
different
can search
options.
From the Spirit World or Overly Animated anywhere to subscribe to either feed or our dedicated From the Spirit World rewatch feed to get these podcasts. We'll be in full spoiler territory for all of Avatar and Korra throughout this rewatch, regardless of what episodes are being discussed in the podcast. Send us your questions and comments to read on upcoming podcast at overlyanimated.com, or leave a comment wherever you are listening. Let's get right into these 3 episodes. Delaney, what was it like rewatching these episodes for you?
So, I was just kind of shocked. I mean, they were all really funny. I mean, Zuko Alone's not funny, but like,
That's funny
it's
bits.
it does. Completely forgot that kid's name's Lee, and then like, later Zuko becomes Lee. Granted, Lee is like a super generic name, but still.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of just this isn't necessarily specific to like these 3 episodes, but it always kind of amazes me like how easy it is just to watch Avatar. Like as someone who like struggles to like sit down and watch things because it's like a thing to do and I have to pay attention.
Yeah, you got
It's
through them. You got through them all easily in one sitting.
Yeah, all one sitting. I just started watching, just started just doing it, and I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and I wanted to watch more, and I was like, okay, like I had some stuff to do, and like the new Zelda game came out, and like I gotta play that, and it's a lot of fun. But
Oh, the one where you can actually play as Zelda finally.
so good. Yes, I'm playing it. I've been like live texting Dylan me playing it. Yeah, no, so the chase is just really funny. Like I was just like dying watching the chase. It's so funny.
Nice.
These
Yeah,
are like my comfort characters. These are my little meow meows. I love
all of the Avatar characters.
all my meow meows.
Okay.
Just except
No.
Azula, I guess.
You
She's
can't be
not
mad
my
at me
meow
for
meow.
saying skibbity toilet if you're gonna call them meow meows.
You didn't say it on the
Okay,
podcast.
I
Well,
can
now I
actually
have.
You said it
call
now.
them meow meows.
No.
That's nowhere
No, you
near as bad as
can't.
saying scoopity
It's worse.
toilet.
It's so much worse.
No, it's not.
Yes,
Oh
it
my
is.
God. You're in a
Okay.
different world.
The
I
children are
don't even
fighting.
know. I love
I know
my
I'm in
meow
the older
meows.
world because I'm old.
You guys are flashback Azula and Zuko fighting right now.
Just-
Okay.
I don't think there's that much animosity.
I know,
At least
right?
I hope not.
We'll
Allie
see.
is
We'll
like
see how the
shooting
podcast
lightning
goes.
at me. Like,
If you use the term meow meow again, I will. For
oh, it's
sure.
gonna happen. So, all right. I don't feel it's on. I guess
I
we're
don't
starting
think there are any.
early.
Well, there's a lot of hybrid animals in these 3 episodes. I don't think there are any cats. A saber-toothed cat, I guess.
Are you
It's
really
a
gonna
it's a
forget
sa-
about Miyuki?
Yeah, but not
it's
in
a
these 3
Okay.
but not in these
episodes.
three. So she's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a saber-toothed moose lion, which because of that stupid
Lion.
game.
Okay.
A pig
Yeah.
Yeah, because of that
rooster.
stupid game I play though.
There are no cats in
Saber-toothed
this. Yeah.
tigers. Yeah, there aren't. And
Turtle ducks obviously is the most
Yeah.
iconic.
right,
The pig
but there
rooster is
are
pretty
no.
iconic.
What did you say?
The pig rooster and like the pig sheep
rooster.
on the
Pig
farm.
rooster.
Zuko Alone, pig sheep. Yep.
Oh yeah,
That's
those are
good.
fun.
Okay. Okay, Delaney will not finish the. We'll see if we get back to the hybrid animals. Allie, what did you think rewatching these 3 episodes?
Going into it, I knew at least Zuko Alone was going to be a very classic, huge episode. I remember watching it as a kid. I was like, "Where's the gang?" I did not care about Zuko. I've seen it before, since the first time I've seen it up until now, and I had a much more of an appreciation for it every time I've seen it since then. Real good storytelling. Get to learn about Azula and his background with her and their mom, which is great. I was also, I think like before going into these, I was like, the chase and bitter work are like so good, and not to say that they're not good. I think they're very solid, but I do think I was hyping them up a little bit too much. But they serve their purpose for like getting character dynamics and more exposition to like getting where we're supposed to go and seeing what Azula and May and Ty Lee are gonna like do with them, and then those three's dynamic with Iroh and Zuko, and then lightning bending and redirection, and the four elements being drawn from drawing from all four elements to like use one element, I think is pretty cool, and I can appreciate it way more now, more than I used to. So I mean, I think these three in succession are pretty good, even though like maybe the second half moves arguably a little bit more slowly. We get to see Aang Earthbend for the first time in the episodes, or at the end of these episodes, which is also fun. Much better progression than what we're seeing in live action. I'm like, what if he's gonna bend Earth before water?
Yeah,
well.
that'd be good.
He does them at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And that's what makes him a prodigy. That's what they're gonna do.
There we go.
He's gonna have the fun ball in the middle of season 2.
Fun ball.
Isn't that what it was
I assume
called?
You mean the Avatar state like sphere with all the things around it?
That.
I don't remember.
I feel
that
like we
being
called it
called
like the
ball.
Happy Time Fun Ball or something stupid.
I have
That's
no memory
amazing.
of that,
I
that's
agree
interesting.
with that label. I've heard that. That's funny.
Again, 2008 was another time.
I think I saw on the internet it being like the Pwn Ball.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was
yeah.
2008.
Pwn Ball.
It was being
Okay, that
2008
sounds more.
and like
Pwn Ball was
that's
the thing.
That's the big one I remember.
And all the things
yeah,
circling.
Pwn Ball,
Okay.
like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if the kids don't know what pwn means, that's you don't
they
get
don't.
to know.
It's fine. I
You don't
can't.
get to know.
Believe like I never thought we'd get to a point in society where we moved past that. Like it's crazy. Like
We've been past pwn for.
I know, but like I never thought that would happen. Like it's wild. Like they just make up new stuff. It's wild. It makes no sense.
Yeah, if anybody if any of the Gen Z or younger understand what pwn means, tell us what the new lingo for that is in 2024.
What's the equivalent?
I have no idea.
Oh, it's I knew this. It's from Twitch. I know this.
See, I
what
told
is
you.
it?
Young people are on Twitch.
I know this. It's
we'll
also
come back
starts
to
with
you
a
when
P.
you
I'll
come
figure
back
it
to you
out.
when you think of it. Okay.
I'll figure it out.
So I also remembered, obviously, Zuko Alone's a classic. I knew it was going to be good going in. It's
Pog.
Oh, yeah.
Pog?
Really,
I mean, Pog's been around for 10 years.
I don't really know if
that's not, yeah.
For me, I feel like it's Pwn. The natural progression was like Pwn to
I guess
Pog.
I guess it's a similar term.
I'm sorry,
but...
that was really hard to get out. And I'm like just picturing the Twitch emote. Like
I
it
saw
was
your
really
face,
hard.
like you had your eureka moment, like, oh my god.
Like, it happened. Yeah, it like just came out.
Okay. Yeah, well, I did. Zuko Alone was as good as I remembered. It's really
but was
great.
It Sorry.
It was
Poggers.
I
Zuko
guess.
Alone is totally Poggers. Like that's
instead of your little meow meows, these are your little Pog champs.
No,
okay. Yeah,
it's not worse.
The thing with Zuko Alone, I appreciated the present Zuko Lee parts much more. I feel like I think those are pretty incredible. The fight at the end's incredible. Zuko's declaration, the flashbacks are all good. They're all like really like hype stuff. They're a little all over the place. I have some problems with like Azula, which I want to talk about. It's like the only minor thing. It's like, man, Azula is just straight up like evil from a child, and we're not going to get into any. We're not going to really get into any nuance here for the most part. No. Well, we'll discuss. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not true. But it was as good as remembered. The chase and bitter work. So Allie and I did the first podcast of the season. I was like, okay, is season 2 going to live up to the hype? I don't remember if some of these episodes are as good as maybe I thought they were. The chase and bitter work were two of the ones I really didn't remember. I gotta say, both these episodes are very good. They're both really good. I think I liked the chase a lot more than I would when we were younger. I did not remember the chase is the most overstuffed episode of Avatar. It's like literally the most going on in this random season 2 episode. It's not random. It's almost like a mid-season finale. That's not. It's
I don't know if
wild.
I go that far. There's not that much. I would. On. It's just like
they have all the characters come together to face off at the end.
Sure, all the characters. Yeah, the ones that
really
we know
is
so
like
far. That's true.
The end of the episode is wild.
You mean up until now, not like going forward.
Yeah, I know. Look, I don't know how much the two-parters will serve as mid-season finale, so we will see. I don't remember those that well either, but I just the chase. I mean, it's hard to have more going on than this episode and more time pass in terms of things happening.
Suki's not
So,
here. Not everybody's here.
Suki and okay. So I'm rewatching the Blu-rays, the original Blu-rays that are so you can see behind me. I switched discs. I had to switch discs to get to Bitter Work. And it went from being
That's so
Toph
good.
on the menu to Jet.
What?
And it's like, Jet's not here yet. This is such a spoiler. Jet, like, come on.
Also, Toph
Jet's
just
not
got
here.
here, and you're gonna take her away?
Yeah, I know.
What's up with that?
So
Right.
Jet was also not
Also,
here.
he like isn't like also like again, it's been a long time, and then obviously I like do not care because it's Jet. And this is the part of book two that I didn't like is not like I don't super remember because it's like where I kind of fell off when I was watching younger, and then book three. Isn't he literally in like one episode?
He's in like
He's
2 or
here.
3.
Probably, yeah. We'll see when we get there. It's at least 2 because you
Because
need to
I
start him
know
and
when
then
he's
Maybe
end
like
2.
him. So
okay.
at least
Because I know he's
2,
like because I know
maybe
it's like
3.
Lake Lao guy, and I'm like, isn't literally just like
I thought
okay,
you were gonna be like,
Yeah,
isn't he
well,
dead? I
that's
was like, hold
ridiculous.
on. Not yet.
we'll get there. It's unclear.
Not yet.
No, the Chase is really good though. It is very funny. I think it's like very writery episode. A lot of like wordplay jokes and
Very
stuff.
classic
Which I
memes and jokes in this episode.
Yes.
there's a lot and Bitter Work too. Honestly, I
Mhm.
think both are. And Bitter Work was excellent. So I'm more skeptical of their episodes now. I gotta say this one's very good. So great character episode. I think the elemental lore that they get into ties incredibly well to learning earthbending. So I think that the lightning redirection stuff I think was very good. Um, but yeah, I mean these are all 3 very good episodes. I kind of have my tears as I'm going down trying to recreate the old Dylan
Oh.
ranking, and I got the amazing and then very good, good. All these are very good or above. Like this strong stretch from here and all of book 2 so far. It's like, oh, I remember that this is the best season. Okay,
Mhm.
I remember now. We'll see
I'm
about
glad
these
you're here
two-parters.
finally.
Yeah, I'm here. Well, Chase and Bitter Work, I mean, I really, honestly though, so much happens in the Chase. I'm like, is there any equivalent in
I
any
don't know
shows
that
we've
so
covered
much
and
happens,
overly
but it's like
animated?
a big thing happening very quickly. Because it is just like one
It
thing.
is a lot of stuff
Well,
quickly
if you
happening.
if you think about it as like threads, there's a lot of threads that all
Yeah.
come together really quickly
Yes,
at the end.
yeah.
So there is kind of a lot going
They
on.
try to play, they try to play a narrative trick where they, like Katara and Sokka jump from Appa, like defeats May and Ty Lee to they're suddenly there, and
Yeah.
they don't kind of show them getting there, which I think is fine. I don't think they needed to show that. Zuko just goes from tracking them to being there. Iroh and Toph get the but Iroh and Toph iconic stuff. I do think it's funny. Toph is like, I'm storming out, and immediately runs into one of the other main characters of the show.
So funny.
The only these are all really good. The only thing I'm like, okay, did we need to do? What if we didn't just do like the chase is overall? It's the Toph is having trouble fitting into the group episode. That's just like it's like the main thing that's going on. That's one
Is
episode.
Toph
Or
or is it Katara?
It's Toph.
we'll get the okay. We'll take
It's
sides.
Toph.
We'll take
It's
sides.
obviously Toph.
And then you Bitter Work is the earthbending training episode. We're very much like this, then this, then this.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a version that's more kind of flowing and integrated, maybe like season 1 is. It feels like season 2 we're doing a little bit more events after event type of thing here, but it really works. So. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any hot takes other than these are all really good episodes, to be honest.
The Azula hot take we'll get to. It's not really a hot take at this point.
I have hot takes on Azula, I guess.
They're not hot, but like they are takes.
There's cold-blooded fire blending is lightning.
Yeah.
I have to talk about that too, because
There's blue fire, which is I think very hot fire. But no, I didn't remember the chase being so iconic. I think the Wild West, old West stuff, like that set piece is super, and the all the fight scenes there, I think is pretty amazing. So,
like I remembered like thematically each episode. Like I remembered, obviously Zuko Alone, like that stuff, and I remembered like the chases, which I don't know why it's always stuck in my mind. I'm like, yeah, they have to give Appa a bath because he's shedding. So like I remembered that's what happens in that episode, and then no one's got any sleep and they're just like fighting the whole
I'm
episode.
completely calm.
And then
Yeah, but no, I didn't know that I'm completely calm goes from that to the
so
standoff in
good.
one
Oh
episode.
yeah.
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 Oh yeah. So plus
And I didn't remember that this has been Toph and Iroh have like their
And Toph and
conversation,
Iroh and Ty Lee has a crush on Sokka
and I don't
and
know
like
how, because me and my brother are obsessed with Fufu Cuddly Pokes,
How has there not been
that
like a
he would.
plush made of him yet? Because that would
I
make
know,
a
right?
I
lot
That
of
should be a
know,
money.
like it
plush.
doesn't make any sense.
Box
Yeah.
lunch.
I bet
Get
I could
on
get my
it.
wife to crochet him for me.
No, box lunch, get on it so we can
I
all have
forgot that
one.
he was in this episode, like in Bitter Work.
Yeah.
My brother and I have always been obsessed with him.
Okay.
Like, just he's the
It's an
best.
iconic one. Yeah, the name for sure. What do you want to do? Do you want to talk about Zuko Alone first or more Toph discussion? Do you want to get into? Delaney's here. Let's talk more about Toph because we started a big Toph discussion last podcast. But Delaney, big Toph fan. Is that correct, Delaney? I kind of want to know, like,
Yes, absolutely.
personally, what Toph means to you growing up, later in life, kind of now, that character. Yeah.
So originally watching Avatar, Zuko was my favorite character up until the introduction of Toph. And it's really just that I thought Zuko was cute. Like, that's really what it was. I was obsessed with his ponytail. And then he got hair, and I was like, I don't like you anymore. You're not
It's like
interesting.
the opposite
But
reaction of most people.
I know, it's so funny. But no, I mean, as soon as they introduced Toph, I'm like, Toph is so cool. Like, Toph is the coolest. Like, she's a tomboy, and like, Katara is still very feminine. Like, obviously, Katara is like great, but Toph is
Gender
just
envy.
like I just really related to Toph. I'm
Gender
sorry, what?
envy. This is what I was saying, similar stuff
Yes,
last
gender envy.
podcast.
Yes, basically. I mean, as a non-binary individual who had their breasts removed, I'm like all about not having gender, or being the most gender, depending on how you want to interpret that, I guess. So I always loved Toph. She's always been my favorite, and like rewatching is great. And then she's just such a butthead. Like I've always gravitated towards those kinds of characters. Like Buttercup is my favorite Powerpuff Girl for like
Mm-hmm.
very same reasons. Like, they're very similar
The green
characters.
characters.
Wait, who?
The green characters.
Buttercup.
Oh,
And
Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls.
Delaney, I feel like you can also relate to Toph being a butthead, as you said. I think this is your personality.
I'm
as
a
well.
butthead. Like it's true, accurate, very much so. Very, being sarcastic. Dylan's just a jerk. It's fine. I mean, I'm a butthead specifically to Dylan because Dylan starts it. It is a butthead.
No, we are Katara and Toph.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
it's all the time. But no, I mean, especially for like growing up and like things have changed a lot. Like, and then they also haven't at the same time. Like growing up watching cartoons, that you really having a character like Toph meant a lot. Like, oh, like it's okay to be like this. This is like someone to, and then it's also kind of sad at the same time that it's been 20 years, and like it's really hard to think of another character who is like, to me, is as like relatable and representative as Toph. Like, because I can't really think of an example. Like,
Yeah, I think
even some of my favorite shows,
Toph's
like
iconic
maybe
too.
like
I think what your favorite in, I don't remember her name, in Voltron, to be
Pidge?
blanking on that.
Pidge. Pidge.
Pidge.
Why do I
I
remember
think there are
I
characters like that.
Pidge.
Yeah, I think there are characters like that.
It's
in other
again, it's the
shows.
green character,
Yeah.
and also green's not my favorite color, shockingly enough, but it's always the green character.
And also,
But
yeah, no,
you were a big Lin fan in Korra too.
Well, I mean, who? Come on.
Get me started on it. The reason I love Lynn is
Toph's
because
daughter.
she's Toph's
Toph,
daughter,
yeah.
and then also Lynn is like
I have to pick your
amazing
brain
and also
about
hot. Like, what do you?
Wicked if you know that one, because there's a green character in that too.
She is literally green. I haven't
Okay,
seen Wicked.
then I will not pick
at
your brain
all.
about it.
Okay, so Delaney,
I'm,
how
like,
about in terms of
familiar
now?
with it.
Now you're rewatching and you see Toph. How does she? How do you feel rewatching her? Is it the same as you remember everything like that?
So I mean, it's very nostalgic, and also I just love her. I mean, she's a total brat, which I think when you're growing up, it's harder to like recognize that because
Sorry, I just realized it.
like,
Green brat summer.
brat. I know. I want you to know that I knew that's what you were giggling about, and I was
We're
like,
really
wow,
dating
like
this
I like
podcast. I
already
think
knew.
people are gonna listen to this 5 years from now. We're really dating.
As if
it
we
for
weren't. All of
2024.
our podcasts. That's how they work. Our old ones are dated. It's fine.
It's true.
This is 20 years
It's
old. This
fine.
show's 20 years old.
Yes.
We are products of our time, and brat summer.
She is a brat,
Anyway,
Even though she's like
she's a total
sheltered,
brat.
it's true and it's interesting like how bratty she is.
Yes. Well, it's kind of also funny like when we're juxtapositioning her with
Mm-hmm.
Zuko because Zuko is
Mm-hmm.
also a brat and like spoiled. And we kind of get some of that in the Zuko Alone flashbacks too, where it's like you kind of suck, and then like Zuko still sucks, but like he's working on it. Like we haven't gotten to the part yet where he like literally gets
Mm-hmm.
sick because he's not being a spoiled brat
That
anymore.
should have
It's
happened with
crazy.
Tom.
His body, like right, like I do think Toph doesn't get that. Toph gets more of the treatment of like you should care about
Hmm.
other people, and which is another great journey to go on.
We
And
get that in the chase for Myro too. At
Yeah.
least other
yes,
people
yeah,
care
no,
about you. You should
Like
accept
let
that,
people help you.
basically.
It's
yes.
not because they think you're weak,
Yeah.
it's because they care about
Toph
you.
is like, and Toph is nice to Iroh, which is like
Yeah,
shocking when you think
it's
Toph.
true. Toph is very nice. I guess she maybe insults him initially, but yeah,
She just
it's
calls him old.
Yeah,
But like I think she's
mhm.
nice to him because he doesn't really have any, I guess, other than the fact that she's blind, like preconceived notions about who she is or like what she can or can't do. And like that's the whole like behind their conversation. He's like, there's nothing wrong with letting people who love you help you, but like you think about her parents and they thought they were helping her by keeping her sheltered. So that's where her trauma stems from. And it's a good conversation.
yeah, like he's not
Right.
patronizing to her, and but yeah, I think that's the main thing is like, and this is kind of like with shows in general, like every time we like start a new show and I watch it and like, they're like, I don't need my mom. I don't I'm like, can you please go tell an adult? Oh my God. This like every time I'm watching something, I'm like, where are the adults? Can you go like obviously there are no adults in the show, but like that's kind of my reaction. So that's generally my reaction with Toph and Katara. And I'm like, oh my God, can y'all like and then poor Aang is like,
And also like Sokka's
guys,
just he does not gaff.
he's sitting there eating popcorn because it's hilarious. He's like, because he's such a butthead. Like
He's the biggest
he's like,
butthead
oh,
in
they
this
can fight.
episode.
It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys were
It
jerks.
was really
Just
funny
sits there,
though.
does
Yeah,
nothing.
that's what I'm saying. He's like, you guys
He
are
does
jerks. Thanks,
nothing.
Sokka. Like, to be fair, they were jerks, but yeah, you didn't do anything to help Sokka.
Yeah. Also, maybe more of a joke,
Yeah.
arguably, for not doing anything.
I just want to. I was thinking about green characters just to make sure we don't leave out Peridot
Okay,
from
all
Steven
right.
Universe,
I love
who's also
her.
a brat.
Okay,
Yeah.
Um,
Peridot. That's brat. Okay, if we like sum up brat in the dictionary,
I
it's
think I think
Peridot. Like,
Peridot. We needed to mention and
Green
Janna from
goes with
she's
Star.
Spock
I don't know.
very
There's some
well.
other ones.
Very nice name.
Um,
Peridot is the
Yeah.
worst. She's
I
like
wonder if Toph is influenced by Buttercup from original
She
Powerpuff.
must
You
be.
know.
I feel like she
Yeah.
has to be.
Yeah.
Like it's really intense. They even have like the same haircut.
Same
Like it's
attitude,
there.
everything.
Like it's very but but it's, again going back to kind of what I said earlier is like it's kind of sad also like we kind of don't so we've gotten to this era now where we have more, with the exception I would say of some Steven Universe characters, we are getting more queer content, but I think it's still kind of for me as someone who is butch and trans masculine that it's still a lot very feminine.
Mm.
So, it's nice having a character like Toph or and even Barnett, was another good example. But like then, we're still not quite like it's kind of like, when you watch a show and you're like, oh, here's this all the bisexual characters are still very like femme presenting. Like we're still doing this kind of like
Yeah.
catering a little bit
Yeah.
with characters.
I agree. Yeah, we could have
Granted,
larger
Adora
discussion
is
about
still
this,
like
but
a himbo, but
yeah, it's at least presentation wise they default to feminine appearance, if not
yeah, that's
personality.
kind of what I was talking
Yeah.
about. Like, there's not really like Toph is still like in a league of her
I
own.
think
Like she's still very much a different like kind of where she sits in like the hall of representation.
yeah, obviously not canonically queer or anything. We'll come back to that.
No,
But
that we know
I
of.
think it is interesting that they go like we've been kind of criticizing maybe the show's portrayal of Katara in terms of having her to be too traditionally feminine exclusively in certain episodes, and then there's Toph who's like the opposite extreme, and it's like maybe the show benefited from the fact that Toph wasn't originally a girl, so they had this character
Yeah.
plotted out who was just a guy, and then they just made her a little girl, and they kind of didn't change her personality probably. And
I love
so
it.
you end up with a pretty progressive character, like completely.
Well, it's kind of like she's kind of like the scamp character. Like it's kind of funny how like when I think about it now, in Korra that's Kai, but they
Mhm.
made Kai like a little softer, so it's like
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, she is too. The thing with Toph in these episodes was like you just get right into, like, we have an episode off with Zuko Alone. Blind Bandit, we talked about how there's just such a like detailed backstory and events that happen in that episode. It's really good, and we get so much of Toph situation. We forgot that she's like incredibly sheltered, like Korra growing up. But then we just get right into things with the chase, and it's like, okay, here's the conflict with the group.
It's not even just sheltered. Like she's like nobility. Like
Yeah.
she comes from like
It's another
like
thing
which I
as
think
well.
is another thing. Yeah, that's another thing I think people in general it's easy to forget because of like how Toph is. But like Toph's not just sheltered. Like she's like rich. Like so on and even obviously being like hating it, like you still like benefited from it and are used to certain things.
Yeah, it's
Like
important
the
to keep in
concept of
mind. Yeah.
teamwork is completely alien to her.
And so Toph's reaction to the that not helping set up the camp and stuff. I think there's just a lot of different parts. It's a very understandable thing that was set up completely by Blind Bandit. I feel like, including the aspect I feel like of her parents like did not let her have any autonomy, and so she's like reacting strongly against that. And like I'm just doing what I want kind of on my own now that she has that again, and is like assuming that Aang, Sokka, and Katara are trying to restrict her autonomy in some way by having her help them, and so that's kind of what Iroh gets into. So I feel like that was, very well done in terms of coming that after Blind Bandit.
Well, I think it's also like for me, like obviously I know what the episode's like kind of going for, but then also at the same time, it's like also with her character, I can understand her being like, I don't understand. I'm doing what do you need me to do? I'm over here. I got all my stuff. Like I think like, it's kind of like the being part of a group. Like
Yeah, she grew up very isolated, very foreign to her being part of a group and
yeah. Well, it's like I mean, when you
contributing.
think about Aang, like setting up camp, like Aang doesn't have a tent. Like Aang doesn't use any of this stuff. So obviously he does it because that's like how Aang is.
Yeah, and
But
Aang comes from a very like
Yeah, the culture that he comes from.
collective
very culturally,
culture,
yeah.
so it's not kind of the opposite of
So
Toph.
it's interesting because like Top is doesn't want them to do stuff for her, but she also doesn't understand the like give and take kind of like
Right. So I think all of this is definitely a
yeah.
reaction to her dad and her growing up, and I
Her
think that is
upbringing.
very well presented. Um,
I also don't think she's being like a butt on purpose. Sometimes she is. But I do think there's like a
she's also
fundamental lack of
like
understanding.
12-year-old girl, but yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so yeah, we get the iconic.
Also, Katara is also being a brat.
I don't agree with that at all.
I think oh
Well,
no,
let's
like so
recap. So we get the iconic Sugar Queen here.
like
She's obviously annoyed. I don't think she's being a brat. All the points she's making are completely valid.
well,
She's
there's a
just
difference
tired.
between here's my thing, but there's a difference between again, you can make valid points and be right, but it's how you do about it. Like she and again, these are children, but like
Yeah, but being a
she's
brat
being a
implies that like
brat.
she's being spoiled, but she's trying to like do this for the benefit of the group at the end of the day.
I mean, yeah, I mean, but again, intentions, it doesn't the way she's acting is horrible. Like, you can't
Mm,
like
don't agree.
I think it's hard from what we see is like 5 minutes in after we just finished Blind Bandit. Qatar is always like, "You're selfish and unhelpful," and they start arguing. Like, wow, this escalated very quickly. I assume there
it
is some
did.
time we missed in between. I do think Qatar gets pretty quick to lashing out
That's
at
my thing is
Toph.
like she can be
It's because they're
right
all
when you
tired. Like
And they're
Toph is
yes, and
also
obviously right. That's what the
like
episode's presenting.
yeah,
They're all very tired, so no one's
yeah. But like I'm just
wrong
saying that like
necessarily.
being right doesn't excuse like noxious rude behavior.
that I
Like you
agree with, but
can't
I
just
don't think
start
she's
yelling
being a
at people.
Yeah,
brat.
and I
I think
think
she may have said some things that are out of line, but it's not
I think
necessarily bratty behavior.
and what the show's going for, I think, is also Qatar is now used to someone like Toph, in addition to
Hmm.
Toph not being used to them and
Yeah,
their
in the beginning,
Well, I
she's
mean,
situation.
like,
Katara's
I'm
used
glad
to
we have
just
another
telling
girl in the
everyone
group, but
Yeah,
then like
that she's
she
leaving.
subverts
Well, also
what she's expecting from a girl in the
generally
group.
like despite the fact that Sokka and Katara like bicker, like everyone listens to Katara and then Toph like doesn't. And Katara's like, I don't know how to deal with this. Why aren't you listening to me? Like you're supposed to do what I say.
I think it's clear
So she wasn't
after
prepared for
this
that.
discussion that Delaney's the Toph, Allie's the Katara, and I'm the Sokka of the group. So
True.
I think that
Accurate.
or Aang, whichever,
Accurate.
and the whatever.
I was not
In this
expecting
situation
that,
specifically,
of all things,
just in this argument. But we
of all
get
assignments.
the Appa shedding the wig and beard, and Toph has some hairy pits, and Katara
Good
giggles
stuff.
at that too. Yeah, Katara's glad they have another girl because you guys are disgusting. But yeah, but then they do subvert it, and it's a great scene. Yeah, we get look here, Sugar Queen, Katara. I'm completely
So good.
calm. All like these iconic moments.
These also like both of these. So this episode and Better Work, they're like this is all the nicknames all at once, rapid fire.
It really is.
Like
Yeah.
doing all of them now.
Well, we got Twinkle Toes in the first in Blind
Wait,
Bandit,
other
but
than Sugar Queen, what else is there?
we hit on Twinkle Toes again. Keep your
We hit on Tinkle Toes.
knees high, Twinkle Toes. Well,
Just in general, all of the Kantara insults.
there might be another one, but yeah.
There's like no Katara other than that one. It's the
Well,
one
she
time.
calls her a baby.
There's at least one or two more
Okay.
scenes. We'll get to it. Let's go through. So, here's Katara at the top says, "Let the stars sure are bright. Wish you could see them."
So rude.
She was there. They
First off,
gagged.
we're starting. We're doing
That
the
was,
line
like,
jokes immediately.
So we
Very
had a
out
whole-
of pocket.
So I had a whole thing last podcast, Delaney. There's a whole discussion on like the disability representation with Toph and kind of going over what's good, what's bad. One thing we mentioned that Sarah brought up is like the blind jokes, if they're not at someone's expense, are like okay. So most of them is Toph like making them, laughing at herself. This episode, right to Katara making one at Toph's
Right to
expense.
it.
So,
it's not great.
I would
but,
say
like,
this is the worst thing anyone says
Yeah.
in the episode.
It's
so-
bad.
sure.
But Toph also like immediately is like responds with violence, so it like balances out. I don't
Toph
know.
is that
like,
child that like hits you when they're mad at you. Like, yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, Katara deserved that 1,000%. She deserved worse.
Yes.
That is like really truly the most out of pocket
unfortunately-
thing anyone could ever say.
Yeah, unfortunately, Sokka was collateral.
He deserves
as
it
per
too, it's
usual. It was very funny.
As per usual.
Do you know? So in terms of does this like squander the positives that we talked about with the disability representation? I think this is clearly supposed to be bad. What Katara is
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
They
Like,
still,
everyone's-
should they have written it? Should they, that's a whole nother thing. But like the show is trying to present it as a bad thing to say. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That being said, it's supposed to be funny. I don't know.
It is still
and it is
funny,
funny,
I'm
but
sorry.
it is funny, but also like I do think in general the show shouldn't be making these types of things.
No.
It's for a point. It's to a point here for sure. It's for sure has intention. We'll see how many of these there are. I don't remember there being a lot
I mean,
of them.
usually when it's Toph, it's like the funniest thing ever. Like the book three jokes are like nonstop hilarious. Like she's like, it sounds like a piece of paper. Like just
When people do it, I feel like it's mostly Sokka, and it's because he's just like forgetting that like she's blind.
yes.
So it's
Or,
not
like, when
like
they're, like,
intentionally
like-
malicious going forward.
I can't remember the name of the episode, but in book 3, when they're like, "Oh, we'll send Katara a letter," it's
Yeah,
like because
we'll-
they're like the two
The Runaway,
dumbest people ever. It's
Oh
like,
boy.
The Runaway has
So
a lot of blind
excited about
jokes.
the Runaway.
It's
Oh
fun.
boy.
What do you don't like that episode?
I mean, it definitely is in my bottom 10 from when we were younger. I mean, it's like a
Wow,
it's like
I
a
thought it would have been
filler
higher up for you.
episode.
It's like a
you know?
Katara episode though.
Well,
It's a Katara,
we'll
and
see.
it's a Katara Toph
Surprise.
team up. Like it's so good.
I just
I
thought
put- I
it was
put
like
quotes
for
around
you,
fillers.
Dylan. I
Yeah.
thought it would be higher.
I
because
I
Katara
remember definitely
focus.
liking parts of it. I think the whole, we'll get to it, but any time in season 3 we were like, let's get to it, and them not getting to it was very frustrating to us at the time. So that was a whole
They have to
thing.
waste so much time because the Fire Nation is so small. Just
I
they
guess
just
so.
have to
I
waste
guess
all
so.
that time.
The other things I wanted to follow up on from that big discussion last time on the context, 2024 context in terms of how they handled disability representation with Top. The thing I feel like I didn't necessarily emphasize enough or make clear, a very basic tenet, is that disabled people don't have to be strong to be valid, don't have to be productive to society. Everyone's valid as they are. So that's kind of a core concept I wanted to make clear because I know not everyone's super familiar. So a lot of our society's focused on how much people are contributing, how strong, like people are valid as they are. They don't need to go do anything. And we said last time, this is just one story to tell. It's okay that Toph's disability stories about her being blind and also strong and everything, and it's just one-sided, but it is just one story. So that's the thing. But I would understand, this is what I'm most worried about from Avatar, watching these episodes, is like, is it too much of like oh, Toph's disabled, but she's so strong and she overcomes it? Because that is not great territory. Again, this is looking back 2024. So in terms of how these episodes handle that, the chase, I felt like Toph to Iroh is like, everyone thinks I'm weak, because I'm blind, empathetic, or, implied, but I'm not. So I'm like, uh-oh. But then Iroh's like, okay, but he makes it about Toph's personality attributes, not about this being about her being blind and stuff. I think the scene handled it pretty well, honestly. So, because again, similar to something I pointed out in Blind Bandit, we take it to just like aspects of your character, not just like something that's like directly resulting from or pertaining to a disability. So I think the show continues to have a lot of depth to its presentation, and that's really what's the most important thing, is like not Toph just being a complex, character full of faults and positives and a lot of stuff going on with her. So I think the discussion with Iroh ends up being good. But that is something I'm kind of keeping my eye on in terms of how the show handles it.
I mean, it really doesn't, like, I mean, really, they make jokes about it. There's like a couple times where it's like kind of a big deal, but like it's more about like the bending aspect, like
it seems like they try to focus on other things. Yeah. So
yeah, like my thing is like Avatar does kind of fall into that trap that like also the Percy Jackson books fall into, where it's like you're not disabled, you actually have a superpower.
Right.
And it's like, which like it can be like, it's like a double-edged sword. If you're not familiar with Percy Jackson,
right.
I mean,
I don't know if we know spoiling the whole thing, but yeah, it's that, I agree, Delaney. So I think on the lookout for how the show handles that.
Which there is a difference. Rick Riordan, the author of Percy Jackson, like actually has like an experience, like it's written for his child, versus the writers of Avatar. None of them are blind. Like
right.
none of them are writing from experience.
Which is the biggest issue here. So so you could say same thing with other cultural aspects.
Yes.
Anyway, so
all of those.
So far from what we've seen, obviously there's like modern context, and it's context that could have been applied at the time as well. But so far, Toph's a complex character. They're giving her agency. We've had one blind joke at her expense, not great, but for the most part, it's her, going to be doing this. So continue to see, like, mostly. Overall,
her representation is really just that she's there.
Right, and she's just very prominently blind, and they don't downplay it, and they make it it's, and and it means a lot to people, I think, who watched it at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I just meant like her for as disability representation goes, like it's just that she's there. We don't really like delve into it as much.
But it's who she
as the show goes on.
Right, I agree. It's who she is, though, and so everything related to Toph is in this. I think in terms of, does the show try to like downplay her being blind? You could argue the fact that she's like, I see you with my feet, So
that's really where I'm coming from, is that where it kind of like the show, like how the show deals with it, it doesn't really like impact a lot of things. Like it does, like for certain scenarios, but like it like
so here she senses the machine coming at them. So we'll keep track. By the way, this machine, this is not the drill.
No,
it's not the drill.
This is just a random machine that doesn't come back.
This is the drill, and then it's not the drill. No, it's just like,
I thought it was supposed to be like an advancement from the tanks that we see in book 1.
That's probably what it's supposed to. It's kind of random, and it seems very fast.
It does go really fast, yeah.
It seems very fast.
Yeah, and it's just an upgrade.
Yeah.
It's just like carrying the lizards.
Yeah, but overall, it's good stuff. You just love the Toph scene with Iroh. And I thought, and we related to Iroh's relationship with Zuko, and Toph gives him advice, which your nephew needs you too. And I thought that was.
And then Iroh varies, like, that's really good advice. I want to make sure I get like critically injured so that he knows I need him.
that does happen.
That's how he decided to take that advice.
I feel like I don't know. Should Toph be able to give a good advice so quickly? Like,
No,
does she know how things work
no.
yet? It's interesting.
Well, it's funny. It's also funny in Nakora, Toph becomes this like, we get this like Yoda, like I'm going to seek wisdom from Toph. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Okay.
why did you
We'll get
become
there.
this character?
That is kind of funny. Ali, any other favorite Toph from these two, I guess, episodes or other aspects we're not talking about yet? How about
Mm.
her as an earthbending teacher? We haven't gotten into that.
That's the thing. I was like, is she qualified to teach?
It's a good
Because she's
point, right?
never,
We just get right to
again,
it.
she's 12. Hasn't really practiced arts. Well, I
Qatar
mean,
is not
she has
really
had practice in the
qualified.
ring, and that's, I guess, the most important thing. Like,
Mm.
she's had actual combat experience. But in terms of like, no, I mean, she's definitely qualified. But you think about it at first, and you're like, this feels not it. Um,
It's
Bitter
funny
Work, I think,
because
is a great episode for her dynamic with Aang. And like just the way we're gonna talk about it, I assume, like the way like the elements come into play, like how
Mm-hmm.
opposites and not just the elements themselves, but like upbringing comes into play and like just state of mind.
Yeah, what do you think about
All
how
of her
the
scenes.
concept Qatar gives of like Earth's your opposite to Aang?
Yeah, and I want to get into that as well, like as it relates to other avatars, and just the elements in general. Toph is pretty funny in Bitter Work as well, just like trying to push all of Aang's buttons to get a rise out of him, to get him to be not airbender passive and like stubborn like Earth. In terms of like, I don't know, what you guys were saying all about like the disability representation, I feel like is pretty much on the nose of what I was thinking. She I just appreciate how complicated she is and how even
Right.
though it's like, yeah, 2024 retrospective and it is like some of the stuff isn't great, I still feel like it does hold up pretty well, honestly, in spite of like maybe being like not the best things to have been done
Right. And
in terms of like humor.
Well, I mean, there's also like nothing, and that's the other thing. There's really nothing to compare it to because
Hmm.
there hasn't been really a character like Toph.
Yeah, you're saying
That's
that
another,
last time. I still
area.
can't think of.
Yeah.
no, it's true. No, disability representation really lags behind
Yeah.
almost everything else. It's very very sad. Even in progressive communities
Hmm.
and spaces, people don't consider disabled people. Anyway, yeah. The Earth, but how about the presentation of Iroh Alley with all the elements, and how that relates to what Toph is teaching. I always love that with the drawing the
Yeah.
symbols in the sands. I always love that scene from Arrow.
I mean, I still quote it all the time. I mean, just going off of like Earth substance versus detachment, I feel like, I mean, obviously it's completely the opposite. But then when you get into, and I feel like people talk about this still all the time, when we got to Korra, air is somehow still her opposite. But it makes sense when you think about where she's coming from, not just the element themselves. And in that sense, I feel like the way they set it up here is great because, I mean, it's the original series is where we first get it from. But if you just take it like at like face value, it's kind of
Literal.
regressive in a way, but it's done intentionally here, like the way it is, and I think it's done very well. But you also have to like just think about like maybe like I don't know. I think in the Roku books too, he has trouble with air because like spoilers, he comes from a rich background and like it's the same thing. Like you're not. I feel like air, like generally, at least when it comes to like avatars we've seen so far, is probably the hardest element for them if it's not their native element because it's just so different from the other three, like the upbringing of the
Interesting.
cultures.
Yeah.
Um, and
Like
I
societally, it's
love
very
the
different.
speech that Iroh gives so much.
Yeah.
Like it's like he learned how to redirect lightning from the waterbenders. Like he didn't invent it necessarily. Like it's definitely, I'm sure it would. I mean, again, book spoilers. It's been around since before him. But like it's interesting that this is how they bring it into play in the series because like you can like study elements that are not yours to make your own bending more powerful. And I always love that concept. And I feel like it should be expanded on in more series we're getting. It has been expanded on in the books. And I don't know. I think we need to see more of it because so many people I feel like in this fandom are like, no, fire and water are opposites, period, the end. Like, not necessarily.
I mean, I think we do kind of get more into it with Korra. It's
Yeah.
interesting if as we go further, because you know that's kind of interesting thing. Like as now watching and having watched Korra, like we
Hmm.
go from a very rigid society in general, like the nations are separate,
Hmm.
everything they're all very different,
And
and
going to Republic City.
and then going to Republic City, and then a family like Mako and Bolin's, or like it's a very different. Like you can't even like we kind of get a little bit of that with with the Fire Nation colonies and the Earth Kingdom, but like obviously that's just
We get it in the comics,
we get in
kind
the
of.
comics. Well, I just mean like we do get the introduction to like that kind of like society,
Right.
but it's I like as we go further this like, and we kind of get into it also as Aang is training. That's as the Avatar, like you're not just an airbender, like you're all of these things. I did want to say, I think the juxtaposition of watching Zuko Alone and the Iroh flashbacks, and he is this general, and he is invading Ba Sing Se. He
Mhm.
has broken through the wall. He sends Zuko a war trophy as a gift, and then to have this conversation, like I think what's interesting is obviously Iroh's great, love Iroh. Iroh is a war criminal, and
Yeah.
like kind of like the this like kind of deity status he has in the fandom and like in the canon of Avatar. I don't think we've done enough to like explore more of this like your son died, but like what else happened to you? Like you grew up in the Fire Nation, you were the heir to the throne, like you were going to be Fire Lord, and then now you're this kooky old man. Like what? How did we get here?
Well,
And
yeah,
it's just
as
so
we mentioned in the pitch, there's room for an Iroh series.
yes,
There's a lot of room to explore
yes,
with
give it
with
to
Iroh.
us.
That
I just think it's like
It's a good point.
just
Let's talk
watching these two
about right.
episodes.
No, it's a great point. Like, these you could argue these are like these three episodes are the Iroh level up. Like he
Yeah, yeah.
becomes one of, like I mentioned last podcast, Toph and Iroh at the time, the two most popular characters in the fandom, and maybe even still the two most popular Avatar characters. I think
Possibly.
this is like huge Iroh episodes here, getting such a
Hmm.
interesting, rich picture of her. I mean, I agree there's gaps, but it is just such an incredible juxtaposition going from the flashback Iroh we see, where he still has the same personality, but is clearly taking actions so antithetical to the present Iroh.
Yeah,
Uh,
like he's like, I'm having so much fun at the front. Like,
it's interesting.
okay.
Yeah, let's. I mean, honestly, I think my favorite part of that I didn't remember from the Zuko Alone flashbacks was that when Iroh sent the letter, and he's like, if we he makes the joke to, if we don't burn it to the ground first, ha, and they're all laughing at it, right?
Yeah.
Including Ursa,
Like,
Iroh's laughing, like at the kids, and it's like, wow, this is like
that's messed
you
up.
forget that this is like
Hmm.
the evil empire, right? And they're
I
all
appreciate like
Yeah.
people watching it these days too. Like I recently just saw this specific thing we're talking about on Twitter. People are like, "Iroh did nothing wrong," and then other people who like have media literacy come in and be
We're
like,
like, wait.
"Do you see this? Like, did you not remember the show that this happened?" I mean, at the time when I was watching it as a kid, I thought nothing of it, and now I'm like, "Wow, that's actually insane!"
I
Like
think
you're
Which it's
laughing at
kind of, and it's
this.
also, like speaking of media literacy, it's like Zuko. So it's interesting. Zuko thinks he's doing a good thing, like giving the knife to that kid, and then it's also like Zuko, like,
That's why he gets like taken away in the first place for
like
threatening them with the
he's
knife.
trying to do a good thing.
Well,
Um,
it's not even just that. It's like also what the knife represents. Like, okay, so like this knife was taken from like an earthbending
Hmm.
general and like
it's
given
true.
to you by your
I don't think
uncle.
Zuko. Yeah, Zuko's reflecting on this stuff. I don't think he really has the
No,
context of that. What his nation is doing is bad yet. I don't think he's really there. I think he's more
No,
personally
I
no.
also
reflecting.
it's very personal reflection, and he also still doesn't like he has like no concept.
I think he'll
None.
certainly get there, if not see
Well,
book
it's like
three, if
he
not off screen
knows.
later. But yeah,
Yeah, well, it's kind of like he knows, but the difference between right and wrong. But then like it's like the big picture. He doesn't have that.
yeah. So I loved that, and we get the knowledge that as we saw, this was great, incredibly well seated from season one of Iroh, was the general who siege Ba Sing Se, and so we get more context there. But he broke through that wall and stuff. But it comes across as he is like an appreciation for the Earth Kingdom and their culture, and it's all very modern Iroh. It's like he cares. Like he's not like such a solo mono Fire Nation, kill all of them, like conquer the world. He seems to have this cultural appreciation for them, and yet
Mm.
is acting in his duties, has not kind of overcome his upbringing and his place. And you hear a lot of memes. Iroh's a war criminal. He's certainly the general of a invading force. I don't know specifically if he's breaking rules of engagement set up in the
That's
Avatar
fair.
world.
Valid.
He
Valid.
seems to have
Wow, I didn't
he's
even think about
he seems to have
Fair.
captured the opposing army that was at the outer wall, but does not seem to have killed them or anything, right? So that we know of. As is it a war criminal to be an invading force at all? I mean, I don't, you could get into that, but
We can
Yes.
get into
right.
I mean, they did
Yes.
start the war, like
The
It,
answer is yes. I'm sorry.
I think this what the show is presenting is maybe the difference of Iroh is like playing by the rules of war, whereas someone like Ozai wants to burn everything to the ground. Obviously, you could argue the morals of like all war is bad. Why is playing by the rules of war fine that we've just arbitrarily set up? But that is, I think, what the show is presenting is like Iroh's an
Yeah.
honorable general who is doing war the right way and stuff. So.
yeah.
That being said, I think regardless, he's destroying, at least attempting to destroy this incredible city and occupy them for. We're not presented with any really sort of good reason other than
They want to.
they think it's their destiny. So.
Yeah.
But I just in general just love we could talk more about this. This is like a whole discussion about Iroh. It's like people grappling with the fact that he's so lovable and empathetic and such a good person now versus his past. And we could talk about that. What are you guys' opinions? Do you think it makes him not a good person now, the fact that he did bad things in the past? I mean, right, like I think the show presents it as he's changed.
Yeah, but like it's also like it's all you also have to think about like what were the consequences? I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
did lose his son. He's no longer
Mm-hmm.
the Fire Lord. But that's kind of like, oh, I don't really care that you're not the Fire Lord. Like, did you want that to
I
begin
think you
with?
could
But
argue
then also,
book two is consequences for Iroh and Zuko.
yeah,
they have no one. They're on the run now, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Was
I
it
would say
ever
the main issue.
established? So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say the main issue for me is that like we see this distinct like past and now, and we don't have this middle. And I think the middle matters a lot,
That was
like
a
in this
part of where I was going to
scenario.
ask. Was it ever confirmed or implied when he joined the White Lotus if it was before or after his time being a general?
Also, like,
Let's
did he
find out for the
establish the White
let's find
Lotus?
out for the
Like,
2 seconds of White Lotus mention we have. Remember both was it Mia and Ali and maybe Delaney? Oh, was it all of our pitch or I don't remember from
I was not on the pitch
okay,
podcast,
me
so
and
probably
Delaney.
no.
The Avatar movie is about the Red Lotus
oh
founding,
right,
so that's what we hope it to be. Um,
Hmm.
I still think maybe unlikely. It
I want it.
seems like a deep
deeply
subject for
unlikely.
the
Yes,
movie.
do want.
But yeah, we'll get to that from Myra. There's certainly a lot missing. But what I loved about this one flashback is just that it's so effective at even though we have no middle. It's just like wow, I see the same Iroh. It makes very
Yeah,
clear that his personality and his positive attributes are still there, but his place in the world has not shifted yet. And because of he doesn't have this perspective on the world, is capable of making this like really violent joke.
yeah.
I just thought it's so fascinating. I just love that scene so much. It
I agree.
accomplishes so much in such a short time, which I think you could argue all of Zuko Alone does. It's this 22-minute episode
Yes.
with
Also, like I had forgotten, like wasn't appreciating as much like the real mystery they had that they completely like just dropped the ball on with Ursa, like with Ursa. Like they really did have
Let's get into that
this.
quickly. That's something I've written down because so the what happened to Zuko's mom. So Ali, I want your memory of this. Was this such a huge thing at the time? And after, I feel like yes, this was like what everyone was
Like
asking
in the fandom,
in the
yeah?
fandom after book three
Yes.
ended.
What?
What happened to Zuko's mom?
It was a big thing. I don't know if it was like huge. I remember seeing fan comics, and
Yeah.
then before the actual comics came out, people were pissed, is what I remember the most
Pe-
after book
Well,
three
they're
People are
like
ended.
pissed that it didn't
they're
get answered.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think on
Yeah.
the
yeah.
podcast, I think I probably didn't care. I think I said that probably, which is a very me
I think I
thing.
also said I didn't care because
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, I mean, they really. I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, it's rude. Like they literally end this show on this like question, and it's like, but why? And then also
I
like,
guess they
it's
go
interesting
back to it
too.
in the epilogue, but right, but it's all set up here in
Yeah.
Zuko Alone, so I think it's a good place to
Like
get
they're
into it.
very much like,
Yes, yeah.
which I did not get this as a child watching. Now I do watch it. And like, oh, she killed him to save
So
Zuko,
here's the
but then
thing.
ran
Here's my
away.
question. I rewatched this episode and I was like, wait, Did Ursa herself kill Azul? Is that what happened? Because I read the
I think
search and
that
we
is the
talked about the
I
search,
so
and
you're watching it. I think that is the implication of the
so
episode. Reading the search, I don't
right.
think that's what
So
it
Delaney,
I had the opposite. I thought, okay, so I forgot the search. Does she poison him or something?
I was Allie. I was gonna ask you. You're our
I
lore
don't care about
expert.
the comics
do I
because they
have like
suck. I don't like the
do I
comics.
have it? Let's look.
Okay, I don't think we're gonna. You're not
I
gonna
I
read it on the
promise.
podcast.
I
No,
feel
but I
watching the episode at the time, I thought it was like maybe like Ozai set it up. I mean, no matter what, he was behind it for sure. But I was like, was he the one who poisoned him like for firsthand?
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about, like, and then was like, my wife did it. Just kidding. Like, I don't
yeah, like
when
remember.
how like
Ursa's
so what,
like,
like was she yeah.
I'll protect you, and everything I did was to, I get I get the impression that she took action
That
to
she
change
did
the
it, yeah.
situation, such as potentially killing. I think that may have been the impression I got at the time. I have no idea. I don't remember honestly, but I feel like that's the impression this episode gives you. I did look up on Avatar
Yes.
Wiki under the Ursa.
Yes, she poisoned him.
Did it say that in the?
She poisoned Azulon and
Is
Ozai.
that what it
What?
said?
Hold
Is
on.
that what it said in the search?
Made a deal with Ozai, providing
Right?
him with an
Yes.
untraceable poison to murder his father.
Okay, that's more detailed than the initial thing I read. So worked with Ozai. They both worked to kill Azulon, yeah. But Ursa's
Because he
very
was going to
involved,
kill
and then
Zuko
she gets
otherwise.
banished as a
Yes.
result of that for some reason, even though Ozai also
Yeah.
was involved. So we
I
get.
don't think she like gets banished. He's just like,
I thought she just ran away.
yeah, maybe.
I think she might get banished, yeah. But this is just what I read on the Avatar wiki. You're left with this impression that she killed him, which I guess is at least partly true, if indirectly. Wild stuff with this.
Yeah.
This episode is wild. This is. I feel like this is such an intense, personal, violent family story for us.
She gave the poison to Ozai. I'm reading this.
Right, that's what you said before. Yeah, you said she.
The poison for Cusco.
Yeah, poison for Azulon.
Cusco's
The
poison.
poison to kill Azulon. That poison? Yes, that poison.
Yeah,
Yes.
but no, and I still think watching it as an adult, I think it's still extremely impactful. This story, it's what a wild episode. What a lot of lore accomplished in a very short amount of time. Yeah, Allie, any other favorite parts from the flashbacks or other aspects?
Because I'm Zuko's also like, we get it from his perspective, and he's also like, Azula always lies. Like,
Yes.
there's no way Dad's gonna kill me. And at the time, I was like, is she lying? Like, what actually happened? Because, she's sus. She's a little creepy kid who like torments her older brother, which somewhat relatable, I guess. But I remember watching it at the time. I was like, what actually? Like, I didn't know what was going on. It is a little, taking it at face value, it was a little confusing. But I mean, I think they still played out very well. Like, generally, I like the flashbacks. We didn't get Ozai's face reveal in this either, right? We just saw the bottom of his face.
Yeah.
I love that they did that up until book 3. We never saw what he looked like. Very good suspense. I also can I appreciate Azulon for being like, how dare you suggest that I revoke Iroh's birthright?
Azulon did not seem that bad in this episode, yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm kind of an Azulon apologist, at least within his own family.
At least compared to Ozai, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and
obviously he was like, you have to kill your son now, but this is Ozai's fault.
Yeah, he brought it on himself.
Yeah, it's true. It's not a good punishment. It's true.
It's not great, but that's his fault.
It's so true.
I'm kind of surprised he didn't go along with it, because he clearly preferred Azula.
Yeah,
I think
it's it's a win-win. I mean, obviously, if Ursa hadn't gotten in the way, I feel like that's what would have happened.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
And it's such a tragic story.
Also, should we give Azula credit? She did warn him.
Yes.
That's true. She wasn't
lying.
Brag
to
she
Zuko,
cared
basically.
enough to be like, Dad's gonna kill you. Which, you gotta give her some points, because she's messed up, but she gave him a heads up.
Yeah. Should Avatar have come back to the Ursa story? I mean, I guess this is the question people ask, because I just feel like it's such a tragic story that Ursa has to kill Azulon or help in order to protect Zuko, even though it's her husband who's the one who's ultimately evil here. She has to work with him to protect us and then lose everything of her own. Such a horrible story. There's
Yeah.
got to be more to the Ursa story in terms of like, is this like an arranged marriage with Ozai? I assume the search gets into this.
Yeah, it is.
And
It
Very much
does.
just
was.
such a horrific situation for this, what we see being a kind woman, other than her laughing at, the Brassing Say burning. But like, I have to wonder, like, would it? This is what Mike and Brian were talking about on one of the latest at the time of this recording, official Avatar podcast. They're like, we wanted to fit this story into the end of the show, but we didn't really have time, and they really wanted to. And it's like, I personally, I feel like it doesn't need to be answered in terms of like from this episode if you don't bring it up
Yeah.
again, but I feel like it's such a rich story. And
If they had literally just not done "Where is my mother," it would have
right,
been fine.
right, I think so.
Problem is doing
But
"Where is my
but I
mother?"
agree. But what I'm questioning now is like, is this an example of maybe Avatar deprioritizing female stories? We're focusing more on dads and fathers, and here's
I
Zuko's
would
mom
care
to have a lot more
more.
interesting story if we maybe got into this in another episode.
Okay, the problem, if the medium had changed the story, I would agree with you. It sucks. If you read the
That's the
search,
problem. Like they should
if
have
this
like
is
Well,
the
expanded on
yeah,
it
well, do it in an
in the right
episode.
way.
Do it in an episode, I think.
like if they had made it like the
Mm,
thing is like I've read the search, it sucks.
I
like
Like
it's the
the
problem is not that it's in comic format. The problem is it's poorly written.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what I'm
Look.
saying is if they had done it in the show and it would have
Right.
been
So
better, like
I
better
think
written, if it would have
it
been
would have been in more
different,
details because you've less
like
details in comics. I
if
don't think
they
the
would have
search sucks. It just wasn't that
it
amazing, but
does.
it's
It does.
okay.
No, the story
That
sucks.
part specifically is notoriously not good.
Like that's my issue. Now, if they had literally, if the story was different, if they had just done, then I
Yeah.
would have loved to watch it. Reading the search and being like, "This is what all the fuss was about," is like deeply disappointing.
I don't remember what we did. You could find the search podcast on the From the Spirit World feed if you
Yes,
want to. So
eons
We
go back
ago.
and
talked
listen to
about
what we
it.
thought about it. I
Yes, we
don't
did.
remember. I don't remember.
This is back when I was like reading it on YouTube. So funny.
Go
People are
back
like,
and
"Here's
listen
the
to what we thought
page."
about it.
Just
Anyway,
read it.
that was one of my
Mhm.
reactions watching it now. Is like, I would have liked the Zuko Alone sequel
96% of people like this book. I don't believe
Well, what does
that.
that mean? Anyway, so yeah, I wonder.
What is it out of 10? How many
96%
people?
out of 100.
The other aspect
crazy.
of Ursa turtle ducks feeding stuff is I love like Zuko's present. He's certainly spoiled, but presented as like a sweet boy, so different from present
Very
Zuko. Naive, sweet little Zuko with his
Mhm.
mom, and compared to
Both
we get
eyes.
the origin of May blushing at Zuko and the game, and we get all that.
Well, you're
And they
gonna
just
skip right
ruined
over
her
the
life.
turtle ducks?
Yes,
That's
turtle
important.
ducks was an iconic scene. This is how Azula
Yeah.
feeds the turtle ducks.
And we're finally getting. Do we have plushies of those now, right?
I think someone
Box
just made
lunch,
a turtle
let's
duck.
do it
No, I
now.
don't think it's box lunch. Someone made a turtle duck plush. Yeah. Then we get a lot of the political stuff. I want to talk about Azula. Here's the thing. These flashbacks are like from Zuko's perspective, so I think it makes sense that Azula is the way she is in the flashbacks because it's what Zuko remembers of his little sister, that she's such a menace. My issue, I think, is like, this is something I'm going to be evaluating with the Azula character. I feel like I never necessarily thought Azula was one of the great Avatar characters, which is maybe in contrast to some other people who think she's like a truly amazing character. That being said, I realized that Azula fits. Well, okay, I'll come back to that thing. First of all, in the flashbacks, Azula is like is like a very sociopathic child, essentially.
Yes.
This is my least favorite aspect of Zuko Alone rewatching is that there's not any
Yeah.
nuance to young Azula. She's just like clear sociopath from like 7 years old or whatever. Again, I think it makes sense because this is what Zuko remembers, but I really think it would have been to the benefit of Azula's character if we saw a little more nuance with her in these flashbacks.
Yes.
And the offending line, because again, it could all be from Zuko's perspective. That being said, we see Ursa saying, "What is wrong with
And
that
Zuko's out
child?
of the room.
What is wrong
Yeah.
with that child?"
Yeah.
Which is a funny line and everything. I actually kind of think it hurts Azula's character here.
Yeah. I mean, watching it today, I was like, yeah, that's not.
I
No.
like, I will say, like, so this is also kind of like a symptom of having like a one-dimensional villain like Ozai, because
Mhm.
like Azula, granted, I mean, of course Azula's like this. Her dad is Ozai, like, oh my God. But then
Right.
at the same time, granted, I think the comics get more into this a little bit, like Azula has some mental illness flavors that are different, and I think that's something we just like the show just can't get into. Like it just culminates in the finale, and it's sadly just something that just like is.
Yeah, I think it's a deficiency. You like, oh, they're great book two. I think this is a deficiency of book two. The fact that they found themselves unable to get more into depth with what's going on with Azula. I think so. It's really interesting.
Well, she just becomes like this proxy for Ozai.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's just doing all this until we get to book three, and then we can fight Ozai.
And
like
she gets some depth in like the beach, right?
Yeah.
So she gets some stuff.
on the beach.
I haven't really seen much of it so far in the show from this rewatch. I will say,
Well, it's also like she has these friends, but then also when they ultimately betray her, it's like, man, can this like
she has these
what
friends,
have we
and
done
all we
for
ever have
Azula?
seen really is just her be cruel to them so far. We've really not seen
Yes.
nice moments. And it's like, and as I mentioned this with Ali before, but as Brian said in the official Avatar podcast, at the core of in their view, the core of everything with Azula is her family, her childhood. I think this episode makes that very clear. It's not even just that she is like the most toxic father in the world and she's part of the evil empire. It's also like literally there was like horrible political violence machinations happening right in front of her as a young child.
Yeah.
So it's clear.
Like she's sitting there, like she's sitting there watching, and she sat there and listened as her grandfather told her father to kill her brother.
Literally.
Like,
so it's understandable why she is the way. Like I think it makes sense. I just think it's like people. There's even these people in real life still have other things going, like normal or positive qualities or things going on with them.
Well, it's like, in Iroh's like, no, she's crazy. We gotta take her out. Like,
right. So
there is no.
It's really not presenting nuance.
Like he should not have used that term.
Well, sure. It's 2006 here.
But then there's also like there is nothing in the story for Azula. Like there is no one. There is nothing. Like she has no safe harbor. No one is there for Azula.
Should be
like,
May entirely, but yeah, she says no. It's in Bitter Work.
She thinks it's her father. Like at the end of the day, and even then, it's not.
That's the sad part. Yeah.
In Bitter Work, Iroh says no, Azula, she's crazy and she needs to go down. That line, yeah. So again, Iroh not faultless. He should probably not have this attitude to it. But I mean, us watching, we're like, he's right. But I think the show's attitude towards Azula is just that like some children kind of turn out evil from their evil parents and such, and it's like a very non-nuanced view.
It's wild.
Maybe it's
because they were both raised in the same family, so it's like
that's what's wild. But then, granted, you also have
which is the point the show's making, I think, and the show goes to great lengths with the Zuko arc to get him to a point where he's not super evil. So I think the show's.
But then also like Zuko has Iroh, and I think it's really a disservice to Azula to like not have given her like a chance. At all. To go back to what you said about like the fandom and why Azula being like this, there really aren't characters like Azula. Like you have this, there is still a charm and like an appeal to this like truly psychotic character.
Well, let me talk about that. So I was gonna say I am actually biased against this character, so take that in mind because I didn't even consider Azula to be in this archetype until I was watching Bitter Work and Iroh said no, she's crazy and she needs to go down. I actually didn't think of Azula as what I like to call a Joker character. Other examples being Catra, Jinx from Arcane. These characters that obviously like Harley Quinn and Joker themselves. I really struggle with these characters. I think that they're presented as like not necessarily likable, but super interesting, and they have relatable struggles as they do the worst things imaginable in the shows. And it's like, and everyone responds as like, oh, I love them. They're presented as so cool in the show.
So I feel the same way.
I really, really struggle, and this is a big issue I have with Arcane and it's not even the show's fault itself. It's just like everyone loves Jinx, and it's and there's the same problem I had with She-Ra. And I didn't. Azula really is one of their proto characters in this archetype. Honestly, I didn't even think of it like that.
Interestingly enough, though, it's funny. I can't speak to Jinx. I don't watch her. I haven't watched Arcane, but to the characters you mentioned, I know. But Catra is redeemed. Catra has characters around her. I'm sorry, you mentioned another character.
Jinx.
Harley Quinn, which I've also not seen the show.
Harley Quinn has.
Yeah, she has Ivy.
She has Ivy. Harley has like I mean, again, we're comparing, a franchise versus like the basic comic universe, but
No, but
like
yeah,
Harley, like to have everything Harley has, and also Harley has a tragic backstory.
mm-hmm.
Azula's has a tragic backstory, but like it's different. Like Azula's is from birth. Like Harley has something happen to her, and then in addition to that, the Joker happens to her.
Mm-hmm.
And these are different, and so I think that's another thing. What does make Azula like unique, and also like what she doesn't have in comparison to these characters, is because she doesn't have anyone, literally no one, and like she's like doomed from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to compare and think about.
Because if
Um,
you want to compare, really, we could talk about. So let's talk about Zuko and Azula and Adora and Catra. Like these are characters who were like we're talking about the same. They were raised the same way, same
Right.
environment,
Yeah.
and then they very and it's I think that's actually a real strength of Sheila is to take the parallel to the extreme. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not just we get Catra, like no, Catra goes like
Off the
full
rails.
off the
Yeah.
rails and then comes back,
Yeah.
which could we do that with Azula?
Isn't that
Hard to
kind of what they're
say.
doing in the
They're
comics?
right,
trying to,
right. The
yeah, I
comics
don't,
is kind of the
yeah,
second part of that story. I agree.
yeah,
Which I think for her, they're doing, I mean, from what I've seen from like the
yeah,
latest comics, they're doing it pretty
yeah,
well from what I've seen.
yeah. But
Um,
like that's kind of like, and for me, it sucks that it's not in like
yeah, oh my
English.
God. It
But
should
yeah,
be. Maybe
yeah,
so in the gang movie, maybe she'll be fully redeemed by that time.
It's going to be really interesting
yeah,
to see Azula in this movie coming up for sure.
yeah.
Because it really
That
hasn't
would be so
it
cool.
hasn't happened. A lot of the character work like happens after
I
the
would love
show.
that.
So
Maybe it would be like
And
a
then
kind
also,
of like Mockingjay kind of thing where she's like
yeah,
like she has handcuffs on the whole time and she's like, you can only help or
yeah,
they're like, you can only help like if we know you're
yes.
good. Like, are you
Well,
good?
and then it's also like when it's like a total Suicide Squad in situation.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
also like, but also for Azula, like I think the Ursa story is also kind of like an anchor, like not an anchor,
Mm.
a bad weight around Azula's neck, because like
Mm.
it's not fair. Azula has this very much negative relationship with her mother that we get hints at in book three, and I think it's not fair to Azula. Then also when you read the search, you're kind of like Azula's got a point, like
Yeah.
geez,
Yeah.
like, and I think that's kind of
And you
something
see it
too. Is
here
like
too, like Dylan mentioned where she goes, what's wrong with that child? Like maybe she
right,
heard it. We don't even know.
yeah.
Like,
Also, like it's your kid. You're kind of partially responsible for
yeah,
this.
You're very
Like
yeah. Oh,
responsible.
at the same time, she's like forcibly put into a horrific situation, arranged
Hmm.
marriage. Not this is
yeah.
not all her. None of this
Yeah.
is her design. Ursa is
No,
also
this is
like a
no, I agree. But then also, when you're the adult in this
right,
situation,
right,
you got to do
right. It's
something.
it's
Like,
it's it's
Yeah.
bad for everyone involved. Here's what I'm thinking is we get Zuko alone. We never get Azula alone in the show.
exactly. Yeah.
We know, like
That's what this
Yeah.
comic book is. Isn't the new one like just
Yeah.
about her? Azula and the
Yeah.
temple or
Yeah.
whatever?
Something
Forgot
like
what it's
that. Yeah.
called. A temple
I
is
mean, I'm
involved.
interested in. I've read some of it from the early stuff with her, but so it's like I think
Spirit
I
temple,
think a
excuse me.
rare fault as we're talking about how one of the if not the greatest seasons of television of all time right now that we're talking about. I think like a huge fault
Yeah.
is potentially the show's handling of Azula. We really just throw her into the mix as this villain without we understand why she's the circumstances of why she is the way she is, but it kind of just stops there, and we rarely get her perspective on things.
Also, and really, I don't think the show does a good enough job of being like, we understand that now as an adults, or even kids. Why I'm like, I don't know, does a kid be like? Because the thing is, like, they're just seeing Azula being mean to Zuko.
Hmm.
Like, I don't even want to give the show that credit. Like, we just get Zuko's perspective, which again, that can be biased, but like, there's like nothing there. Like it's just Azula's being mean, and they don't even really get the credit of oh well, she had a horrible like this horrible upbringing. This is horrible to
It's a lot
watch.
of it is
This
implied. It's true. Yeah.
I don't
yeah
know if it's just her being mean to Zuko specifically because she does bring up like if Uncle doesn't make it back, that means Dad's gonna be the new Fire Lord, and like who cares if my
yeah
cousin dies? Like she just has
yeah yeah
overall lack of empathy, sympathy.
yes
But like to your point, we don't see why she doesn't and Zuko does.
yeah. Well, if we're gonna go back to the implications, like then it's like, oh, it's because Ursa's like coddling her favorite little baby boy and just like
Mm-hmm,
bye
mm-hmm,
Azula. Like,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
geez, like what are you supposed to do to this kid? Like,
mm-hmm.
And then of course it's kind of interesting. It's kind of this like flip for Zuko. Like obviously Ozai favors Azula. Well, if
Yep.
Ursa favors Zuko,
Yeah.
well, it's the same thing.
That's
like
why they both
for
have.
Azula.
That's why they both are the way they
Yeah.
are. They're
Got
both
parent issues.
damaged.
Like, y'all like yeah, damaged. Yes.
Yeah.
What is it? Generational trauma? Not really.
Oh, I was gonna say that though, because we're talking about like generational trauma from Ursa to Azula. Like
Oh
we're
yes.
just
Yeah.
right back down.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be, look, we're only on episode 9 of the rewatch here. I'm gonna be interested in seeing what the show does with Azula, because it is more of just like a flashy villain who hasn't gotten into too much depth. And she's more like a side character to Zuko.
And she's more competent than Zuko.
Yeah, more.
At least in her bending. Well, yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much in everything.
Yeah.
14 is wild.
She has more advantages than he does right now. At also like.
Well, and then also
At
she
this
also
point in
has
time.
the entire power of the Fire Nation. to
Exactly,
come to bear.
yeah.
Like because she's like
She
we
has
have
allies.
this. I have this cool whatever this vehicle is that we're just going to chase you around the world
And
with.
the
that we don't-
lizards
not the
and
drill.
A
And
team.
the lizards.
Yeah.
And
So
like
yeah.
status, princess status. I'm not banished.
It's also really funny that she's like, I need an elite team, but also I need this giant vehicle.
Yeah.
We
Where
gotta
did you
go.
get this from?
Like,
Also, I need an elite team. They're all 14, 16.
My friends
it.
who were. Yeah, and we see them at the palace with her, which is it's interesting.
yeah.
Also, not a really much depth at all from May and Ty Lee, other than their introductions. We see that Ty Lee is thinks Sokka's cute, and then also we finally get the Katara follow up of like she took away my bending, so we get that. Really nothing, and we get the May with the crush on Zuko early on. Not a lot there from them yet either, but yeah, I'm interested to see moving forward what do we get from Azula from the show. I feel like it's not going to be a ton until book 3.
It's yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, we get a little. I mean, when we get to Ba Sing Se.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I don't remember too much of what she's doing
With the
until
girls?
she gets in at the end. I feel like she just shows up. But
Are we talking about the drill?
yeah, well, we get
Well, the
we'll get
drill,
the
and then
drill.
like she's in the throne room
In Ba Sing Se,
and,
yeah.
like,
At
Never
the
mind.
end,
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot.
So it's,
I was
it's
like, what are y'all
interesting.
talking
Yeah, I
about?
mean, she's
all
still
there.
still a very cool character and a lot of interesting things about her, just not one the show has prioritized as much as like a Zuko.
I just think she has a very striking character design. Like she's just
Yeah, I
She's
will
scary.
say
Battle
when she
armor.
does the Zuko impression, very funny.
so funny. And then she's like, "It's okay, you
Yeah.
can laugh. It's so funny." Like,
I also just noticed something watching this for the first time. In Zuko Alone, when he uses his firebending for the first time, Azula's theme plays. I did not really notice that until today. And I was like, is it just like the evil theme? Is that where we're going now?
Interesting.
yeah.
The other thing May and Ty Lee get is Ty Lee calling them clumps of hair. So that's fun.
And then she hugs May.
Yeah.
She's like, "Thank you."
That's cute.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Azula talking to him. It's fun.
I
it's
will
funny.
say that's
You
like
can
a literal
laugh.
conversation me and my wife have all the time. So like that was
Listen,
like,
they all went to the Fire Nation Royal Academy for Girls,
Yeah.
which is also where Kiyoshi's girlfriend went to school.
Interesting.
So
ooh.
Interesting.
read the books.
Oh my god! So it's like gay Fire Nation Catholic.
Yes,
School. I love it.
yes.
It's like,
Everyone who goes there turns out to be a lesbian, pretty much.
perfect. Got it.
We see her call him Zuzu. They have the three.
And that's when they giggle.
Yes,
They're like, oh,
things
Zuzu.
again. Yeah, they have the 3-way standoff: Azula, Zuko, Aang.
I wish they brought that back for book 3, like especially Aang. Like-
They
Yeah,
they
that
must
would've been
mention
good.
Zuzu again after this episode.
don't.
No, I'm sure
Not the
they
gang.
do. Someone mentioned
gang does
Zuzu.
We'll
not.
see. Okay, we're on Zuzu
I
watch,
promise you,
guys.
the gang does not. I promise you.
Okay.
I would remember.
Okay. Look, Allie knows the script, so
I do.
Allie has
Sadly.
the
So
script.
Toph really should have been calling him Zuzu. That would have been
That
really
would've been
good
good.
in book 3.
It's like we talking about like how they were pretty similar, spoiled. Is that why they didn't go on a field trip together? Because they already are like too similar. They don't need to change each other.
Maybe.
Now I'm realizing.
They still should have gotten it though.
We're excited for the field trips.
That was one of my pitches.
Took
It
her to
was-
the
I
Fire
wanted
Nation
to
Royal
select
Academy
Zuzu.
for Girls.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe
They go undercover because Toph has
Yes.
to like be more feminine.
one of my pitches was a global bending school. Maybe it should be the show is about the Fire Nation Academy for Girls. Maybe that should just be the whole show. Is that
now
academy?
this is just
Yes.
making me think
It's
of
just
when,
Kaon, but in the Fire
Yes.
Nation.
This
Except
is
they're all
making
kind of
me
evil.
think of Marco.
Yeah.
When Marco has to be a princess.
Oh
And
my god.
That's
Yes,
what
and
I want.
Zuko has
Yes.
to dress in
Zuko has to
drag.
infiltrate the Fire
Yes.
Nation Academy for some reason, and that's part of the. That's
Yes.
okay. So this is a
Yes.
show that takes place while Zuko and Azula are kids in like the time of Zuko Alone,
Yes.
and then there's
Yes.
Zuko as like a guest character sometimes as he has to try to sneak into
Yes.
school for some. Okay, We
I love this.
it
Yes.
could just be a whole Azula May Ty Lee show focus show. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So
that'd be fun. Okay.
it's like DC superhero girls, but it's them.
But then honestly, like a school in like the evil colonist, country, it's pretty interesting. And if you have if the show has the perspective on it, it
Oh, Allie's coming to do her pitch.
yes.
Yep, here it is. I knew it was
drops.
coming. Oh God.
Does
Boy,
that
oh,
relate to what we were
goodness.
saying? Other than that,
Yeah,
she's
that's
from
where
there.
the school comes in.
Okay.
I
Well, you
believe
said
in it.
that's
Do we spend
Kyoshi's
time in there, or
girlfriend.
it's just mentioned?
No, we don't. We just hear about
Okay.
it
Okay.
because it's like where there's juicy details. I'm not gonna get into it.
Juicy details. Okay.
Very.
Tell
So
me
then
more.
Katara and Sokka then Iroh comes and Toph come in. Then it's a 6-on-1 on Azula. Enemies and traitors all working together. And then she blasts Iroh and then takes off. Yeah. And and here's we're tracking the Zutara. Katara offers to
Okay.
help Zuko. And Zuko
No, but I
rejects
really
her.
liked this actually, not for the Zutara, but for just like this was like the first time, I guess, apart from the Blue Spirit, where like someone in the gang tries to help Zuko out of a bad situation,
And he just a
and he
total
refuses
butt
again.
about it.
That's
Yeah.
Well,
he's two strikes.
they also take him to not die in the northern pole. So after he
Okay, so 3 strikes, he's out now, and then he gets a 4th one later.
Yeah.
Look,
He gets a bonus one and he still messes
Zuko
it up.
eventually has his redemption, but it really takes a while, and he's very
It
privileged
takes
in
a
his
really
redemption. Like he gets a lot of chances.
he gets
He
like
does.
So frustrating
Also,
as a
I'm
character
like-
for me as a kid.
also like, dude, do you want your uncle to die? Like,
Yeah, like you have a healer right there.
Dude,
That's
like-
not great. Look, if it was the
It's-
Zutara version of the show we're talking about, this would be a big moment, and then Katara would heal him.
oh no, they're making out and Iroh dies. That's what happens in the Zutara universe.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how these.
There's
That's how
definitely
they think.
there's definitely fics about this moment though.
Yeah,
Oh duh.
with them making out and him dying, exactly like
Yes,
that.
exactly.
Then.
Precisely.
Okay.
That's what's happening. Or she's like, I did everything I could. Like, yeah, that's literally like that's what happens.
I'm seeing what else we got.
It's a tough
For how about from Bitter Work? What did we talk about? I mean, also it's stuff with like You Never Call Me Sifu Katara. How about the Katang of that? Yeah.
Blur.
And then he
So
does.
then he
good.
does
And then he's
call
like,
her.
seafood. Oh god, I was like, yes.
It's a very sweet moment.
Also, just
I mean,
in-
she's helping him work through like stop avoiding your problems, stop
Yeah.
being an airbender. No offense.
And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And she's like, we're talking about it.
Like that's your problem.
she tells him the opposite thing, and then also she's her trying to tell Toph Aang responds to positive reinforcement.
So funny. It's also, yeah,
Okay,
right,
yeah.
right.
I'll
It's
keep
also
that in
it's also
mind.
just there's the Katang is
funny.
also sweet. Can't be for
I'm sorry.
everything.
I really
Yeah.
like, of course, when she's like, I'm gonna roll the boulder down. Oh no, you're right, Katara. We're gonna do it blindfolded.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
bro, like,
Thanks,
like-
Katara. That was like the original Thanks Obama back in the day.
yeah, like, thanks, Katara. It's so funny.
Um,
And then also in the beginning when they like wake Sokka up and Sokka's like hopping around in his sleeping bag, like dying.
Toph
yeah.
is just great in this episode, just like messing with everybody in all sorts of ways.
Yes.
At the end,
Yes,
Aang
absolutely.
earthbends after holding his ground against the mom and also Toph, and then
Mhm.
And then she's like, wait a minute, let's not kill Sokka, JK.
Yeah.
Like, good job. but
any
no.
other foo cuddly poops thoughts, Delaney?
Oh, he's so cute.
I want a
He's
plushie.
the
I want
best.
an official
Yes,
plushie.
Give it to me.
Because it would make a lot of money.
I think this
It's
C
so
plot or B whatever. I think it annoyed me more as when we were younger, but I think it's pretty good here. I like.
Well,
Well,
it.
because
think it's funny
it
that-
bleeds into the A plot eventually.
Yeah, it's
And
all
then
it's all
also
pretty well tied in.
Sokka being like, I'll be vegetarian. I won't be sarcastic
Mm.
anymore. And then as soon as he
Yeah,
sees
you-
Aang, he sees Aang. He's like, do you have any meat? Like, bro, like,
That's true. Of all the people he could have asked.
so funny.
I still
And then
really
also
the
the
Zuko Iroh
scene-
stuff from that episode is great.
Yes.
Yeah, so
For me, it's really the scene where Aang sits next to Sokka in the ground. It just
It's
sits
all
next
about like
to him.
I
He's like,
can't move.
he's like, I got problems, and Sokka's like, wow, I have no idea what that's like.
That's
It's
pretty
trapped
good.
in my hole.
Yeah, so Iroh teaching Zuko the lightning redirection. We talked about the learn from the waterbenders, and we get the Iroh, though you gotta feel the flow, his little thing. That's an iconic one too. Yep. Oh, that's
Yes.
so good.
Can't do it.
So,
There it is.
yeah, I mean we're not
It's
like in
bad.
frame, but Yeah.
And then because Zuko is the biggest
Better.
baby in the universe, he's like, I'm gonna go get struck
And
by
then he's
lightning.
like, yeah, strike me down to the sky. It's the ultimate Zuko moment, honestly.
Mhm.
It's like the most Zuko ever.
It's great though. That's a
Also,
great
Iroh
ending.
being like, I'm not gonna shoot lightning at you.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Yeah. It's pretty good.
so funny.
Allie, what else about this plotline?
The tea stuff was funny.
Yes,
Just
yes.
like
Oh,
him
it's so
dumping it
good.
out the
Yeah,
window
yeah.
and then him being like, "Oh, well, yeah, we're drinking tea to calm down." He's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good
That's
point."
No,
good.
I had to make better tea because your tea sucks. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not
Hmm.
so funny.
Um, yeah, no, I mean this episode was really solid. I know
Yeah.
it felt a
Like
little
a rock,
slow,
one
but
might say.
I mean, it's
yeah.
compared to
Mhm.
the chase, it's a lot slower. Yeah, but and again, it's all
Yeah.
really well integrated together. And just very impressive storytelling stuff. In general, I think that my reaction to Zuko Alone, this rewatch, is like I think that we have now turned the corner to where we are predominantly paying off the big like mythology exposition in book one and into book two that we have been doing.
Mm.
And maybe this is why we think of book two as like the best, is because we're doing the payoff now. And the payoff is so good. But I think what I didn't appreciate is that the build up is what makes the payoff so good. It's so important, all this world building that we do in book one. And the world building is so good in and of itself. It's just a little less exciting than the payoff once you get to book two. So
Yeah.
I really feel like that's why this season was so hype and at the time, and why it's so good is like the show turns a corner and it starts going full throttle, whereas it was kind of building up with the world building for predominantly for a long time. And now we're just on even these like more quiet. I don't know. In my mind, the chase was like a quieter episode. It's like a character episode, but even the character
Hmm.
episode, it's still really going full throttle now, and we're
Mm.
really paying off all this effort we did in book one. But at the same time, the bitter work still does a lot of world building with the elements and the lightning redirection. So the show is still trying to add more onto it. But the lightning stuff is paying off a lot of stuff from book one, so it's interesting. But that was kind of my
And then, of course, how important we know that becomes.
yeah, and it's book one ambiguously sets it up. Book two gets it more into play here, explains it, and then it pays off fully in book three. Yeah. Um. So yeah, that was just my big takeaway with these three episodes is I feel like we're into the meat of the show now with a lot of stuff coming at you. A lot we're flashbacks, Toph's in play, all the characters. But we're into the story advancing versus setting it up now, and it is pretty incredible the way they're doing it.
Yeah, like unfortunately, you just can't get to the good character stuff until you have to go all of the places. We have to meet all the players. We have to like get everything started.
Yes. Oh, random thing in the bitter work, I forgot there's a random flashback of Luten
Luten.
playing with Iroh, and then Iroh at presumably Luten's grave when it's raining, and I
Sad.
forgot that
I
existed
wouldn't
in
say
there.
it's random because he's dreaming about him, you know?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
it's his version of Zuko's dreams later when he's sick.
I was just
Mm.
really scared when it started that I was going to hear leaves on the vine and I was going to burst into tears. So I'm glad that didn't
Not
happen.
yet, not yet.
But I was scared. Like I was
Nah.
like,
The Luten
whoa,
stuff
we
is
don't need
way
to do that.
honestly. The Luten stuff is way. Look, there's not a lot there, but there's more than I remembered. There's the small stuff
Yes,
in
that's
Bitter
also how I
Work. There's
feel.
stuff in Zuko Alone. It's really not.
That's how I felt
Yeah,
like when they did it in the live action. It's like,
yeah.
wow, this is a lot. But then we actually
There
Yeah.
like the
actually is
funeral
stuff in
scene.
this show. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like it's
Less
funny.
is
Like
more.
they kind of took the Azulon funeral scene and then like made it the Lieutenant funeral
yeah,
scene in the
yeah, they
live
Hmm.
did.
action.
Yeah, yeah. But no, I felt like the live action was a natural evolution of this show, doing it a little bit, then they expanded a little bit
Yeah.
more. But yeah, no, I forgot the show. Lieutenant is pretty well handled, I think, by this show, by the original Avatar.
Yeah.
So I think it's good
Where's
stuff.
our where's my Lieutenant comic? I should really be sad. Like I want to be sad
Yeah.
like Hero's brother in Big Hero
Oh
6, which
yeah.
that devastates me.
Do
I
you want to
want
see
that.
him die?
No, but like, give me more. Like maybe he's like literally the best person ever. Like I need more.
This is why I really liked Mel's pitch of like Rogue One, where
Mm-hmm.
like
Yes.
someone's trying to assassinate him. It was a good pitch.
Yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, I feel only major things we didn't talk about when we talked about the family stuff with Lee. I feel like a man's past is his business. That kind of like line in those things. I feel like that was a big deal. I don't know. I remember
The
that very
dad is so
clearly.
cool. He's
It
so
was pretty
chill.
cool. Yeah.
It's very
Also, it's
like
funny that he's like this man. I'm like, he's a child. Like, that's a literal baby
yeah,
next to you,
it's
but
true.
I'm
sure.
kind of like, how old is he? Because like, why was he not drafted? And why was his
It's another
son?
question. Yeah,
Who knows?
Yeah, the man.
it's a good
But yeah, I don't know.
question.
I just a man's past is his business. That whole thing was very iconic in my mind. It's so interesting because in many ways, Zuko Alone is a very masculine episode.
Hmm.
Written by the
I did not realize it was the parents from the Cave of Two Lovers. When I was watching that flashback, I was like, oh my God.
Wait,
Like
what? Oh, those
in
guys.
Zuko Alone, when he stops, he thought about
Yeah.
killing them and taking their meat. Those are it's the
The Serpent's Pass, not
serpents.
Cave
I'm
of Two
sorry, I got
Lovers.
it mixed
Oh,
up. The
from
serpents, I
later.
get them mixed up.
I'm
I
like, this
get them
hasn't
mixed
happened yet.
up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. This
Well,
later
I didn't
on.
realize.
Yeah.
I was
He's gonna
shook.
take. He's gonna steal from them. But one of them's pregnant. Yeah. We'll see. But I think pretty shocking. This Zuko Alone written by the one woman at the time in the writers' room,
Hmm.
Elizabeth Welsh. Like,
That's probably why it's done so.
I mean,
Not to like
but it's so interesting because it's such such this masculine story of this
masculine
male
without
character.
being toxic in typical toxic masculine
I think,
ways.
yeah.
Like
I mean, I think you could argue this is like the best written episode of the show, Zuko Alone.
it's definitely up there, like top 10
It's
for
incredible.
sure.
I guess speaking of which, one topic I wrote down was what were the like revered episodes by the Avatar fandom at the time? What were like
It's this one.
the
Up
untouchable
until now, right?
episodes? Like, well, we
Yeah.
can go through all of them. I just like for context, people like what were the episodes people thought were the best episodes?
People love the Blue Spirit.
I think yeah, I
That's
think
true.
so. I think the Storm and the Blue Spirit were two of them for
Stuff
sure.
involving Zuko pretty much were
Zuko
like fan
Alone,
favorites.
and
I think.
Literally, it
Zuko
means
Alone
being
was
Zuko.
considered one of the best episodes of Avatar at the time, and I think
Yes.
still is. City of Walls and Secrets was appreciated at the time as one of the best episodes of the show. I'm gonna say non-finale episodes. All the finales were revered.
Yeah.
The library, the desert.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. I don't. I think people. Yeah, I do think people really like the library in the desert. Yeah, I think so.
Those two huge things happen in both of those episodes.
Lake Laogai was loved at the time. Did people? Because nowadays we talked about this. You'll hear a lot of people say Tales of Ba Sing Se is one of the best episodes. We disagree.
I was gonna say I don't think at the time it
I don't
was. Like
think-
now, I think people say it. I don't think at the
I
time.
agree.
Yes.
I don't think we really said that at the time. I think people.
As soon as you started talking, that's what I was thinking because I was like, it is now, but not
They
then.
we liked the parts of it that are really good. Like people
Mhm.
like appreciate it, but I don't remember anyone citing while the show was airing
No.
that Tales was one of the best episodes of the show. Nowadays you'll hear that. I understand why because of the emotional aspect.
Yeah.
We like the headband, but I don't know if it was in general.
It's not up there.
considered.
The beach.
I love
People
it.
love the
People
beach.
love the beach. That is one.
Okay, that's another one. I was like, the beach people, the beach.
What's the one
Exactly.
after
That's
that?
exactly.
Sokka's Master's before that. People love that one too.
Yeah, I don't know. The beach stands out to me as one people like super loved. The Avatar and the Fire Lord.
Yes.
I think so. I think it was kind of revered. Puppet Master. Puppet Master was an instant classic.
Oh yeah,
Puppet Master was
Master.
an instant. I think so.
I guess so. Yeah, back then.
Um,
And then
uh,
Southern Raiders for Zutara.
That's what I was gonna say. The
For
Southern Raiders, and I was
Zutara.
like, what's the name of it?
I don't.
All I'm
remember
doing
if
is
that was-
picturing
All
the
of
rain.
the
I'm like, what is the name of that
those
episode?
4 episodes where it was like Firebending Masters, Boiling Rocks 1 and 2, and because it was all
the
Zuko
problem is
interacting
it was
with
so
Kiri.
late. The show ended right after. I don't really remember the
Yeah.
reaction.
They were
But no,
super
definitely the
revered because that's
Southern
what everyone
Raiders.
was waiting for. It was the payoff that everyone was waiting
I
for.
think we had some skepticism of those episodes, which we'll get to.
I mean, we did, but I'm talking
know,
about the
everyone,
fan
yeah.
part.
How about the invasion two-parter?
I was about to say the Day of Black Sun.
I think Day of
I
Black
was about
Sun.
to
I
say
think
that.
it was revered. I think there's some mixed reactions at the time, though.
Yeah.
I
I think people nowadays, they're like, the second part, it's like one of the highest rated on IMDb.
Oh
If
yeah,
I think-
it's a great one of the best episodes.
If I
of the
think,
show.
if I
Yeah,
remember.
so
I do think sometimes.
I think at the time there was some mixed reaction, but anyway, it's the answer is I think for the most part the ones you'll hear people say are the best now. People said at the best at the time
Book 2.
for the most part.
Yeah.
And book 3. But
Yeah.
And the Katang episodes were our favorites, but are not necessarily. Cave of Two Lovers is
Naturally.
one of the best episodes of the show. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I do think Cave of Two Lovers was loved at the time too. I think so.
By one half, less than a half,
By at least
because
half.
we're the minority.
But anyway, so
the ship horns.
the
Beloved by us.
great
for sure.
episode this season. So I don't know. I slot Zuko Alone. I put it number 3 overall for now, but it's so hard. They're all so good.
That's surprisingly high.
It's incredible, and Cave of Two Lovers right behind it, 2 spots back. Amazingly, one of the best.
What are 1 and 2 right now for you?
Siege of the North Part 2 and The Blue Spirit. So
Okay,
then
okay.
Siege of the North Part 2, so good.
Waterbending Mass Drive
So
up there as
good.
well. From this season, now Blind Bandit's very high up as well. The Swamp, and I put The Chase and Bitter Work in the same very good tier that I put Jet, The
That's
Deserter.
actually what I was going to mention when you're talking about like revered by the fandom. I think the Swamp could be
The
up
Swamp,
there.
what? Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. The Swamp was pretty revered by the fandom too.
And the
Yeah.
Waterbending Master.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we always loved the northern stuff more, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
No, that one specifically because it was all about like
People love the
Screw your gender
Katara fight,
norms.
the Katara apocalypse. That was
Yeah.
always super popular. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Okay, so honestly, a lot of when we're like at the time, it's honestly a lot of it is like similar reaction people have now. Like Avatar was
It really hasn't
like
changed.
like look, Avatar was an instant classic when it was airing, and
And it
and
still
when
is.
people watch it for the first time now, still an instant classic. So I think it's kind of the
It's
same.
true.
Allie, any last thoughts from these episodes you're thinking about right now?
Really just hyped for like the next batch because this is where stuff starts to get good. Like as you've been saying, like this is where we finally get into the payoff of what we set up in the first season, and now after this especially, it's like it's gonna start hitting the fan. Everything, like this next part, like the middle of book 2 is wild, and I love it.
It's true.
Delaney.
Good payoff here also.
Yeah. Delaney, last thoughts here.
Again, just how so much happens in the chase. It's such a good episode. And it's also just a really funny episode.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we've kind of lost. Like shows are either
Humor.
funny or good. Yes, like I think we've like, or it has to be a show like Rick and Morty, which is like absurd and like but like no, like this is a show that is like good and funny.
It's
Begging
Yeah,
people to
like,
watch things like Legend of Vox Machina and Invincible because those are intense and funny, just like this.
I can't watch Invincible. It's
Those
too
are
much
also
for
both
me,
adult.
but-
Watch Legend of
Those
Vox
are both
Machina.
adult shows too. It's like
So is Rick
Yeah,
and
that's what I
Morty.
meant. That's
But
Yeah.
Delaney's point is like there's a comedy show or a serious show. How about the
Yes.
kids adventure
I
show
think
that's also
Steven
funny?
Universe
I think Steven Universe. I think Gravity Falls are
Steven
also
Universe.
very funny. So I think they're
Owl House.
Owl House has I think it could have been funnier.
Owl
I
House
think
was
Owl House.
funny.
It's more of like an ambiance. I don't
Yeah.
like.
I do
I
think
think things
Star
about
Star
Owl
is
House that
very
are
funny,
funny
but
are,
it's
like,
a little more of a
Moody.
comedy.
That was pretty funny.
But yeah.
Yeah,
So
Star.
that is one of Avatar's great qualities, right? Is it's this very serious
The balance.
but it's also
Yeah.
so funny. Yeah. So I agree, Delaney.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like maybe it's a lost art, maybe it's just hard to do. It's an interesting thing to think about.
Well, and of course, we've also, these shows you mentioned also like Star and Steven Universe, and that's also where we transition, and we're kind of going back to it. Like we transitioned from 22-minute episodes to 11 minutes, and now we're going
That's true,
back,
it's shorter episodes. Yeah.
and like it's
Mhm.
changed. And I do what kind of what Ali said. So like I mentioned it earlier. This is that we're getting to the part where I don't have as much memory of the episodes. Like I didn't watch them necessarily when they came out. I had to go back later and watch them before book 3 aired. And so I'm excited to get back into this and like watch it all through like naturally, I guess. Or
Nice.
this is for me, this part is like
If you actually go back and watch the episodes during this
okay.
rewatch.
I'm going to,
Okay.
you jerk.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, if you do it.
Okay, full disclosure to everyone, I stopped at the Waterbending Master. I'm gonna go back and watch it. I watched the 3 episodes for this podcast. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do like an
Are
episode a
you?
day.
Okay.
I do what I
If
can.
you
Y'all
say
are
so.
rude. Oh
Okay.
my
I
God,
believe.
so rude. Look, I do
It'd
what
be
I
great.
can,
No,
okay?
you said it's fun to watch. I do think
It is.
me like taking notes and thinking about the podcast topics makes it a little less easy of a watch, but it is
Yeah.
very watchable if I'm not trying to write stuff.
It
down.
does help that Netflix didn't yell at me today. Thanks.
That's good.
Stupid.
It is
So annoying.
stupid.
I do have that's the other thing. I have them all on DVD. I still need to get them on Blu-ray. I have Core on Blu-ray, but I don't have these on
But
Blu-ray.
you'll probably get a really cheap deal now for Avatar.
Yeah, there are good deals.
Yeah. I just need to do it.
Honestly, the
or-
one I have,
yeah.
the original Blu-ray release, it's really good. So, it's like
Okay.
it's good, great. I don't think you'll find better quality. I think this is the best remastering of it. that I'm aware
Oh,
of.
cool.
The one part we didn't super explicitly mention, Zuko Alone, his big moment, never forget who you are. Then he firebends, and he's like his whole spiel. I'm Zuko.
Yeah.
Heir to the throne.
Yeah, I
And
mentioned
they're
that's
like,
where
you
Azula's theme
suck.
plays right there.
Oh,
Or
that
is it the
part.
Fire Nation theme? I don't
Might
even
be
know
the
at
Fire
this
Nation
point.
theme, but it's such a great moment, incredible animation that all those parts, Zuko firebending that random guy.
Was it really smart? No, but like, it paid off.
It's
was
about
smart. He
it's
would have
about
died
character,
otherwise.
you know.
That's fair, valid.
And
He
and
would
then
have
also
died.
some amazing action at the end of the chase that we mentioned with the Old West parts. So it's just some
Oh
amazing
yeah, and then
fight scenes here.
Azula like doesn't fall, but then Zuko just goes right and like
Yeah,
through the door and falls.
yeah. In my mind, that when I think Azula shoots the blue fire and then it turns red and it surrounds the perimeter, that's like an
Yes.
iconic visual to me.
Yes.
From the chase.
Well, it's kind of like it's also kind of mirroring a lot of these flashbacks to like when they're in the throne
and
room.
then
because
the fire's all around. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point. I think we're getting to a really interesting point. I mentioned this before, but I don't remember having a strong opinion of the Library Desert, Serpent's Pass, or Drill. I think I like them all, but I feel like there's high potential for me to fall in love with one of these episodes, whereas I did not when we were younger. I don't remember
I'm just
why.
really sad and don't want to watch Appa. I can't.
Well, Appa's
Well, we're not
yeah.
at Appa's last days yet.
Well, we're getting to Aang
I
being
know,
mad about
but
Appa.
I'm scared.
I know
I'm
some stuff
scared
with
about
Hope
it.
the baby's coming up. I know where,
I loved the Serpent's Pass growing. I loved it.
I know we're getting
because
to the
Katanks-
kiss. Oh yeah, last thing,
Kiss.
Delaney. The
Suka kiss.
Delaney, you missed the discussion last podcast about who would be queer if Avatar was made now. So your quick thoughts, Azula and Ty Lee, is that your answer?
Oh yeah, that Azula and Ty Lee, like absolutely. That was so before like back in the day when we called it Slash. That was my first Slash.
That's true. It was called. That's a good point. Is anything
Because
that
it
was
was gay?
then.
anything that was not
Yeah,
straight
that's
is
what
called
Slash was
fic.
gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Crazy nonsense.
Why?
Yeah, so that was because why? I don't know. Because
It's bigotry, but also
See, I
I
was
think
too
they-
deep in the closet to even know that was a thing. I don't even think.
right. Like so that was my first, and like was Taizula, and I'm still on the Taizula boat. It's we're underwater. It's a submarine. Like I'm okay with it.
Delaney, we mentioned.
Dude, no. It's so popular now.
It's
Why did? Well, now
they sh-
I was in.
It's
I
not
was
the
back
boat,
in
they
it's
should do it in the
underwater.
movie.
They should.
That's why I'm like,
They-
I guess to me because it's not real that it's like.
Delaney,
The submarine.
we said if Avatar was made now, they could do, even though Toph's like a child, they could do a thing where instead of crushing on Sokka, like instead of in the Serpent's Pass, she kisses Sokka, she kisses Suki, and like it gets a reversal, and she has like a
Yes.
crush on Suki. Like they could do something
Or
that.
like I wouldn't mind if like Toph was like Ace, like
Mhm.
that'd be good. Like Toph's like I'm good.
I think I prefer that, honestly.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously she might be, she's 12, so it's just like crushes.
well, but
at
she's
that.
not Ace because she has children. Well, no, you can be Ace
Also-
and have children. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Also,
I'm not
yeah,
even
no,
thinking
you're-
of Korra times and later, so I'm not.
I'm how I feel about it is more honestly, give me by Katara.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
see,
sure.
I was gonna bring up the Toph Katara ship because I didn't consider it really.
You
And
mean
then my
Katoff?
other slash,
Katoff?
my other
Katoff.
slash,
I need to read some
Is,
Katoph fics.
Zukang,
Zukang.
Oh,
yes.
Zuko and Aang. Oh, what a great ship!
Zukang
It's
had
so
a name
good.
at the time, and so did
Yeah.
Katoff. So like these, but they were
Yeah.
slash.
I didn't
fit,
remember
but,
Katoph.
but they were slash.
Oh my god,
ships, so they
Katop
were
is like the worst thing I've ever heard.
They-
They would just like fight each other constantly.
Taizula, and it was
oh my
a thing.
god.
So
That's what makes it
these,
so good.
These things were like ships, but they
Ooh.
weren't taken seriously. Right? Like
Yeah.
No.
So unfortunately,
But no, so for me it's Taizula, Zukang, so good.
Zukang. And a version, a version of Avatar where Aang's a little older, I think, with the
Yeah.
Zuko. So
Yes, but Ace Toph by Katara.
mhm.
Definitely by Katara for sure.
By Katara, like,
by
give it
today's
to me.
like animated show stand, Katara would be like a lock for being bi in today's world.
Yes.
Honestly,
Yeah.
if we wanted to do Sokka like bisexual awakening episode,
That's what,
I'd be
that's
on
what I said
board.
last time. Sokka,
Like,
yeah.
I think
Maybe
greater potential for
Katara
him.
and Sokka are both like, man, Haru is so cute. Like, why not? Why isn't that?
And then
what
they're
we
both
got?
also
Oh
like,
my
wow,
gosh.
Suki is really cute.
Haru.
Yeah, and see, we could have had this.
Yeah.
Like,
Modern Avatar. That's what the next. Well, what do you mean we could have Avatar Studios? We can have this when they make the next
we
show.
can do this, guys.
You
We
can do it. You have the power.
Now, if they were like, okay, guys, we're going to do like, I don't know, they're like, we're gonna reboot Avatar but make it gay. I'd be like, you know what? Sure, why not?
That could. I mean, that's kind of the Netflix show, but they only did
That's
they
what I
only
thought you were
did the
gonna say.
Cave of Two Lovers. That's the
There were
only
two lovers.
that's all they did.
Yeah. And it's still like, are they really real people? Are
They
they
could have
like,
done.
yeah.
They certainly could do. It hopefully will do more with it in the next. But anyway,
Live
okay.
action out? I don't think they're gonna do anything.
Well,
They
I don't
should,
think so
but
they
either.
could. Yeah. Well, they did.
I
too
am
soon.
so scared. They're like, yeah, we're gonna do stuff with Toph that we didn't see. And I'm like, do not ruin this.
well, they didn't
for
even
me.
specify
don't
Toph. They
know.
said they're just gonna explore
Yeah.
other possibilities
Who
that
knows
the
what?
original show
Who
didn't
knows
do,
what?
which is worse
But
to say.
yeah, that's worse.
So
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
I'm
We'll
truly
see. Anyway,
scared.
that's for another day. We'll find out. That's it for our discussion on Zuko Alone, The Chase, Bitter Work. Great stuff here. Great discussions. If you enjoyed this, consider supporting us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron podcast, Kent. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, Steve, Michael, and Phoenician. If you want these early, I'm posting them early for patrons only at patreon.com/overlyanimated. So you could be listening to these earlier on. Delaney on video has an Appa statue.
Yeah, I guess.
little
I
figure.
think he makes noise.
Figure. Whoa. Do it again.
Did you hear that?
no.
Okay.
No, it's not. We don't.
Oh, maybe I should do it to the
Yeah,
microphone
do it
and
to the
not
microphone.
camera. Dumb.
Okay, we don't hear it. That's okay.
He's like, it's like Appa it's like Appa growls.
Yeah,
like,
that's good. I don't know where that's from, but that's good.
I don't remember either. It's
Yeah.
just a little guy I have.
There you go.
I
This one's from
I
the
have no
cereal
recollection.
box.
And by the way, the big difference between
I want that.
cereal box. The big difference between Avatar at the time and now is
The
there was
cereal was
zero Avatar merch at the time, zero, and now
Zero,
there is
like,
the
none.
most of almost anything in existence. So
That's definitely not true.
well, it's one of the most licensed, I think, properties at this point. But
I will
there's
say it's like
there was it's hard to understand how there
Crazy.
was just no official merch
Nothing.
for Avatar when it aired.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, so that's
no,
pretty
it's
wild.
it's maddening. Also, where are my Legos?
I think
Legos.
my
Don't those
Appa,
exist?
my Appa here is an off-brand Appa I got. There was no official
Yeah.
Appa
I
plush
have-
since for a while.
Yeah.
I have an official Appa from when.
I think there are new
Kings
official
Island.
Appas that look terrible.
Well, there's a
Yes,
good
they're
there's the
awful.
good one that they at some
Oh,
point they came out.
I'm asking for Christmas. I don't know if it's gonna be my parents-in-law. I want the weighted Appa plush. I need
Oh,
it.
Lord.
That's good. That's a good one.
Like, I need him.
How about actual weight? True to size weight.
I would like
You
that.
just
Just
get crushed.
being
Yeah.
crushed.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
they
a
can't even
necessity.
deliver it.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Okay, any last thoughts? We good? Excited for the next ones coming up?
yes,
The
excited.
next ones are gonna be
There
so
you go.
good.
Thank you guys. What are we gonna end on?
Oh,
Sugar
God.
Queen.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
Like it. Sugar
Okay,
Queen.
thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next time. Sugar Queen.
Sugar Queen.
Sugar Queen. You're supposed to do a countdown. You suck.
3, 2, 1.
Like,
Sugar Queen.
Sugar Queen. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like.